All right. Good evening, everyone. I don't see the on-air light on, so that's what was throwing me off. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's City Council regular meeting for Monday, March 16th. Just one study session item for tonight. We have our City Attorney, Tamara Niles, here to provide a review of the City Council Policy Manual with potential updates for council discussion. Good evening, City Attorney.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. So for some background for our new council member, the council policies manual is about 25 pages, but it keeps getting longer to address various council policies, how we do things, how we operate, your expectations of each other, including things like public comment and a grant application policy. So we tend to supplement it as additional issues come up to provide clarity for both city council, board members, and the public. Council policies are approved by City Council motion. Generally, we present it at a study session, receive direction from City Council if you want to make any revisions, and then we bring those back for motion consideration at a later meeting. And a little bit more background, it's in your council communication, but you've had this council policies manual for about 7 or 8 years now. And it was first drafted by my predecessor to bring together all of City Council's various rules in one centralized location. So on the screen in front of you is all of the different sections of the policy manual and its contents. So we do propose some cleanup to the policy manual, predominantly to reflect that we now have a direct elect mayor. These were last updated in August of 2024, so they don't reflect the ballot question that was adopted to directly elect our mayor, which we did in November. So we have slightly revised some provisions to ensure that we align with our current practice. Of course, the direct elect mayor. Also reflect the change that we only have one public comment section. We used to have both two public comment, one for people that had signed up ahead of time and one for people that signed up during the meeting. Now we just have one. Also reflect our current practice regarding what's on the agenda and what's distributed to council. That publication of ordinances are no longer required to be published in a traditional newspaper. This was a change that we made about a year ago that, if not longer, that we can publish ordinances on our website. And that's also contained within our ordinance language. And then also that to clarify that consent agenda is appropriate if it's approved unanimously on first reading. This, of course, is our current practice, so that on second reading it's on consent agenda, but that wasn't previously specifically stated. And this is a rule that we have discussed, Kell's rule, repeatedly. Kell's rule states that the second reading of an ordinance shall not be on the same evening as a public hearing. We've struggled with this rule because we don't ever have a second reading of an ordinance on the same night as the public hearing regarding that ordinance. Instead, our current practice is we have a public hearing and then we wait a meeting and have first reading, and then we wait until the next meeting and have a second reading. So we have proposed in there that City Council consider just removing Kell's rule altogether because it doesn't make sense anymore. We did do some background on why this rule was adopted and what City Council's practice was at the time it was adopted, and we couldn't figure it out. So nobody, even former council members, former city managers, didn't know why this was ever the rule because it didn't make sense with our current practice. So you'll see it in like PUD hearings, where we have a hearing and then we wait a meeting before first reading. And we also have proposed eliminating the pre-approved proclamations. This also is no longer our city practice, but we certainly could leave it in if City Council thinks we may resume that practice at some point. For those listening in that are just listening to the presentation, in your City Council packet, you have red line changes to these policies, so you can see exactly what those proposals are. This PowerPoint is just a highlight of those changes. Okay, so some discussion for some issues that have been raised with my office and for council consideration is whether City Council wishes to prohibit holding up signs, equipment, or obstructions that may interfere with somebody else's view. So this is an issue that was raised with my office with some signage that was held up during a meeting so the people behind them couldn't see. So if we adopted a prohibition on that, people would be required to put their signage on the seat beside them. However, then that raises another issue. If people are sitting in a seat and their signage takes up a seat, what if there is a hot topic issue and then there's not enough seating? So I think if we do prohibit raising of signs, then we also should include a prohibition that then you can't put your sign on the seat if somebody else needs it for seating. In that case, somebody would have to hold it on their lap. And we also propose a prohibition on placing signage in the aisles or exits because it could block them for safety. For fire code, we need to keep those open. Another potential issue that's come up repeatedly is public comment. So we have proposed a couple of clarifications just to align with current practice that if the speaker is interrupted by the presiding officer or their time expires, then clarify they must then stop speaking. Also that the mayor can shorten or eliminate time for public comment if the agenda requires it. This is something that's currently in council policies, but it doesn't say specifically that the mayor has the authority to do that. It just states more generally that it could be shortened if required for business. We propose adding an enforcement mechanism within the policies that if someone violates the policies or law during public comment, then potentially they could be disqualified from giving public comment for 90 days. Currently, we don't have an enforcement mechanism actually tied to public comment arising out of public comment. So that was an enforcement mechanism that was proposed to my office. We propose adding that sign up for public comment must be truthful. We have to tell the truth when you sign up for public comment. And that the sign up should be before the meeting starts. That's our current practice. Then expressly state in policies that violation of these policies can result in ejection and exclusion and potential prosecution. This is our current practice. It is something that we have done. It's in our standards of behavior. And so we propose to place language in here that mirrors language that we have in other locations. We also propose a clarification for consent agenda removal. Currently, there's no specific time. Any member of city council can request any item be removed from the consent agenda. But the issue is that without a time, sometimes maybe city staff doesn't have time to gather information in response to all the questions. If something's on consent agenda, they may not be planning to appear in person. But if it's not on consent agenda, the better practice is that we all try to appear in person if we can. I say we, city manager and I are always here anyway, so everybody but us, and deputy city manager as well. So that's a proposal that would just make it easier for staff. Of course, we can maintain the status quo, but this would just give us a little bit more time to be prepared. This is also an issue that has come up several times since council policies were last changed in August of 2024 for a blackout period. So Fair Campaign Practices Act says that the City Council will not spend any public money to advocate for or against a ballot question or for or against a candidate for an election. But it's come up a couple of times in the city magazine that maybe a council member spotlight, we spotlight various council members, that maybe they're a candidate, but they're also scheduled to be have the spotlight in the city magazine. So we had received some comments from various council members that they don't think that's appropriate. If somebody's running for city council, we shouldn't feature them in a city publication unless everybody for that position is featured. So we have written some language that would incorporate that into the council policies if that's something that council wants to pursue. The blackout period is always already something that's in council policies, but it would add that the city won't publish or otherwise distribute materials solely featuring a candidate, unless everybody has that same opportunity to be featured. For example, we may still do candidate highlights where every candidate gives their platform or discusses their positions, but no one single council member could potentially get some sort of advantage by being solely featured as a council member. I will add, though, that it's compliant with FCPA. If it's our normal practice to feature one council member, that we can go ahead and do that. But it has come up where then a council member is featured and they may write a column that is talking about the campaign or talking about the election, and in which when that comes up, it puts staff members in kind of an awkward position where we say we really would prefer we rewrite this to not refer to the election or something like that. Adding this into the council policies would kind of take that burden off of staff. I think we would appreciate that. For electronic participation, we currently only allow study sessions electronically, and only if the mayor approves it, unless it's an emergency. In an emergency, then there can be fully electronic meetings. But we have had some requests from some boards to ask council to consider authorizing a video meeting if the only agenda item is approval of minutes and or finding of facts. So we are bringing that to you on the request of P&Z and BOAA. So for example, they may have a meeting with a public hearing, and then they have a second meeting to approve findings of fact arising out of that meeting. And sometimes it could just be a few minutes where the facts are not in dispute. It's a simple vote to approve them. And so they would like council to consider allowing that as an electronic meeting. An electronic meeting is still open to the public, still subject to open meetings law, but it would be a link for people to attend and watch rather than to appear in person. I also added, this is something we haven't previously discussed, but perhaps council would want to consider a special meeting by video if the only agenda item is second reading of an ordinance. This has come up on, say, an emergency ordinance. Where council meets in person, approves it the first time, it has to be approved the second time. And we have scrambled occasionally to find a time where everyone could appear in person to vote to approve on second reading. And emergency ordinance has to have unanimous approval. So I thought I would throw that in there in case that's something council would want to consider, because it would reduce the burden on you when you already met in person to approve it the first time. Then we had several inquiries to my office about various other potential revisions. These came in a little bit later, so they're not in the red lines, but I wanted to highlight them so that council could discuss them in case you want to consider. One proposal was to eliminate the public comment response from the agenda and instead move council members' choice to right after public comment. So that would give every council member the opportunity to respond if they'd like, or to raise other issues as well. Another issue raised at my office is to potentially limit public comment to registered voters, which are your voting constituents, or to align with some other cities that bifurcate public comment, meaning 2 public comments, one for registered voters first, and then everyone else goes at the end of the meeting. Or some cities just have public comment at the end of the meeting to ensure business that's noticed under the open meetings law is completed. Then also there was a potential to add an agenda item on your council meeting agendas for invited guests to speak. For example, if there's an issue maybe regarding businesses or business concerns, and a group of business owners would like to speak to city council on a particular topic, we have the option now to schedule a study session for them. But I had an inquiry that perhaps we should consider adding invited guests to our agenda items. And then insertion of procedures for council meeting disturbances. My office has created an attorney work product and security SOP, but perhaps adding excerpts of that are to the council policies so that meeting attendees have a general idea of how city council meetings and the mayor will respond to various disturbances. It was a lot of information and a lot of requests for feedback, so I would welcome your questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles, for that presentation. Anyone want to kick us off? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. I'd just like to talk to about Cal's rule a little bit. And so Cal's rule really came into being more when city council, for whatever reason, is bringing forward some issue rather than staff. And so let's say, for instance, maybe Code Next. we didn't necessarily have to have a public hearing, but we may have come up with things that needed a public hearing. And so when there was a public hearing between first and second reading, and actually Kel's rule actually came up before I got on council, that they wanted to hurry things through, so they would have the public hearing and then vote on it that same night, even though it was second reading. The reason they wanted to delay it at that point in time was to give council a week or two to consider what they wanted to do about that. It was nothing, wasn't that we needed to talk to other people, but sometimes you hear something and you are moved. It just gives you time to think. And so that's why that came up. And I know a lot of when staff generates first and second reading on items, there is that, but it's there. We probably don't even use it that often. I don't know that I want to take it out, because for historical purposes, I think it's probably good that we leave it there.
Member Russell, do you mind if I just a point of information there, but we're speaking directly to second reading, or to second reading on that, right? Not necessarily. I'm just trying to figure out whether or not that your example was a first reading or a second reading.
Well, it's the second reading, because the public hearing, and now I know we've changed some of the public hearings to the beginning, but if for some reason council decided after first reading, that it might be good to get the public to weigh in on this, then we would have the public, or we'd have the public hearing after first reading.
Okay, so you're stating that the public hearing was considered the first reading, I guess.
No.
Yes or no? No.
No.
Okay.
No. The first reading happened, and then council may have decided, it may have been something that didn't normally need a public hearing or require a public hearing.
Okay.
Because I think the others are actually set in not the policy manual, right? But the how we pass. Well, where the issues that we do that require a public hearing, have those changed, or?
Generally, what requires us to have a public hearing is the quasi-judicial proceedings. And the ordinance then makes findings of fact based on those quasi-judicial proceedings, which then a first reading can only occur after the public hearing. I can't speak to whether it was done differently in a different era, but I would find you would be on shaky legal grounds if you would adopt an ordinance before you accept evidence that needed to be included in the ordinance.
Well, right, on quasi-judicial.
Yes.
I don't believe this was necessarily for quasi-judicial. It was for, and something came up, we had first reading, and then the public, there was a lot of interest in it. So I think that we should leave it in there. For the most part, on quasi-judicial hearings, that doesn't apply.
And some cities include on first reading just a list of ordinances with no discussion, no real thought, just more as a public notice to people that we will be having a discussion on this, and then a second reading. Whereas our practice is different. We have that thorough discussion, if necessary, before first reading. And so Kel's rule suggested to me maybe perhaps at some point in our history, we did do it that way, where first reading was just a notice, and then maybe we had a public hearing and a second reading with discussion. That just wasn't our practice now. Nothing hurts leaving it in. It just doesn't apply to our current practice.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. I'm just going to go down the row, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Member Bethel.
Thank you for the presentation. To speak to Kel's rule, I don't think there's any problem with it, and I could see it still being a useful thing if it came up that we, for example, had something on the agenda that we didn't expect to be controversial, but turns out it was. And after first reading, we want to have a public hearing, then we could still do that, but we'd have to delay second reading. I think it makes sense. The only challenge, the only time I've ever heard it brought up is when we try to have when we've discussed having a public hearing the same night as first reading, which this doesn't apply to, but I think what's happened is this, since our practice changed, this got kind of reinterpreted or brought back into our minds as something that the public hearing has to be before the first reading. But even with quasi judicial, there's no reason we couldn't, in our ordinances or charter, have a public hearing and the same night have first reading after that. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've actually analyzed that.
Okay.
And because my last city had a public hearing and then first reading immediately right after. And so we were wondering, why does Englewood do that? And is it required by some law? And it's not. That's just our practice. And so city council could change that.
I think I've argued for that practice before, and I think I still would. I don't know if we'd have council support for it, but that would, like, we have a very, very long timeline for enacting in any ordinance. So if we have a public hearing and then 2 weeks later have a first reading and then 2 weeks later have a second reading and then 30 days later, we're talking 60 plus days from public hearing to enacting the ordinance, which there's nothing wrong with that if the process needs to take that long. But I think there are occasions where to get a contract moving or to do, a critical IGA or something like that, if we could shorten that timeline, I think it'd be good. And so I don't think Kell's rule interferes with that, but it might be worth clarifying that this only applies to second reading.
Member Bethel?
Thank you for your presentation, City Attorney Niles. I think Rita makes some good points. As does Member Anderson. I really don't think that Kell's rule is very applicable, but if it would make Councilmember Russell more comfortable, I absolutely support keeping it as like a just in case, like, let's be safe, let's be sure on what we're doing here. And if we use it, if we need it, great. If we don't, then it just kind of sits there and we don't use it, and that's fine. It's not hurting anyone by keeping it. Member Anderson makes some great points about potentially exploring ways to expedite a process for an ordinance as well. Support. I also wanted to continue into public comment, where I think that it could be, I wouldn't support removing public comment for non-voters. I think that would remove the ability for our younger citizens to vote or to comment, to come in and speak their minds, as well as folks that might not be registered voters, but are still applicable to the laws and regulations of Englewood, that still have a say in how the city is governed, even if they aren't a registered voter. You do make interesting points about how we enforce the rules around public comment and what to do should those rules be broken. I think that 90 days might be too severe of a penalty, but 60 days seems appropriate, just so that there is some kind of, I don't know, consequence, right? Otherwise, we're just saying, please don't, it's a suggestion. As far as signs, it seems that the whole idea of signs and allowing signs into the room is a fire hazard or a visual hazard for people. So why not just ask folks to leave their signs in the lobby or outside?
I'm happy to answer that. I think citizens have a right to petition their government. And I feel like personally, signage is a way that people can do that in a quick and easy graphic measure so that you can see their positions easily. But that's why I didn't propose elimination. Sometimes I kind of enjoy the signs that people bring in and their creativity in doing so. But it's completely up to you. Some cities don't allow signage at all. We haven't previously regulated it, and so I thought council may be more amenable to kind of a middle ground. That you can continue with your signs, which, we don't have them very often, but they just can't interfere with anybody else's use of the space. But completely up to council. You can prohibit them altogether if that's your preference.
Mm-hmm. You identified a couple situations in which signs would be difficult, including, like, if you put your sign beside you, then it's taking up a seat. But if you're holding it up, then it's blocking someone's view. So is there a way in which you can hold signs in the room? Would you have to be standing in the back? Currently?
Currently, we don't have any regulations. People
Okay.
can hold them up, although if you're obstructing someone's view, we have some basis to ask people to lower them because we prohibit obstructing others' view already. But so then they would have to set them beside them, which we have seen people do during meetings. I would say that's probably the most common, that people will set them on the benches on some hot button issues. But then if we have a room full of people, I personally didn't think it was fair that your sign gets a seat, but I don't. So I'm just trying to be respectful of everyone that may want to attend a meeting.
Thank you for the ideas. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Jack. Member Prank.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and all of the suggestions. I have a few areas that I want to dig into a little bit. The first would be signage. I too believe that signs we have a right to political speech, and however we need to approach that speech is how we need to approach it. I certainly would not ever be in support of a ban. I think there is potential that we could be discriminating against people with any type of ban. We may have residents that have speech impairments of some sort, or just overwhelming fear to public speak. Or we've heard from our public when we were talking about public comment previously that, sometimes people feel intimidated to come and speak and make public comment because then they think that they're going to be outed and recognized and harassed in the community. I don't have any issues with us having some sort of enforcement around how signs are used. I think, it could be fair if council really wanted to do something about the usage of signs to say you can't hold it above shoulder level. Because really, what's the difference? If you're holding a sign up here, what's the difference between that and someone who's sitting in front of you who's really tall? So I just don't think it's the right solution to get rid of it or disallow or whatever, but maybe we put some parameters around it and then have something that's enforceable around it. So that's where I would sit on that. Then and I can wait. Okay. Just taking notes. Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't have my
you're
notebook.
fine.
I'm writing down shoulder
I just
level.
didn't want to keep carrying on if you were taking notes. I guess my next point would be on the presiding officer's ability to reduce or eliminate public comment. I am not a fan of this. It doesn't give me as much heartburn to potentially reduce if needed, but to completely eliminate public comment when we've had such detailed conversations around our time limits for public comment. I feel like we already have structures in place that put limitations on the amount of time that public comment is going to take from our meeting. And truthfully, I think, if we are consistently running into issues around time within our meetings, then we need to look at how we're setting the agenda, not reduce public comment. So I'm just not especially a fan of the elimination. Maybe some leeway there for reducing if absolutely needed, but used very, very, very sparingly. And then my next item would be the consent agenda timetable. Also not a fan. I sometimes am still working through my packet on Mondays, to be perfectly honest, and I might not meet a 1 p.m. deadline. I feel like if there are answers that are needed, because someone has pulled an agenda item and we need time to gather the information, I think it's acceptable for staff to come into the meeting and when they're asked questions to say, I don't have an answer to that, but I can follow up and get that to you. I just think that council should still be given the flexibility that they need around removing consent agenda items. It could be that a council member heard from a member, of the public right before the meeting and needs to come into the meeting and ask pull the item to ask a question that they hadn't thought of earlier in the day. So I just think that we can be flexible around if the answer is not complete and full when we ask the questions, that's okay. And then also around the piece of whether someone can attend in person or not, then they can attend virtually if needed. I just don't think that putting limitations on council around that is the right approach to that. So, and
As
then
far as the attend in person, which provision are you referring to?
well, it was part of the rationale given for why
Oh, got it.
yeah.
Okay.
That someone might not have been planning to attend in person. And so I think that we have options around how to manage that.
Okay. I was afraid you were referring to the electronic participation
No,
proposals.
no.
Okay.
Let's see. As far as your last slide on these additional issues, I actually really like the idea of eliminating the public comment response and moving up the council member's choice to right after public comment. I think that the way that we do it now, while we believe that we're being responsive to the public and we're making comment on everything that's said, I'm not sure that it's used in a way that's helpful. I'm just going to put it like that and say that I think, empowering our voices through council members' choice right after that would be a much better approach and kind of reduce alignments that might happen kind of naturally within response to public comment that may not be helpful to the conversation with the broader community. And I think that is all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Praying. I have a few items, City Attorney Niles. Actually, I'll start up with the first one where the cleanup to align with practice. I was kind of wondering this just when Member Russell was bringing up the reason for the Kells rule, and I guess what I'm wondering is like, is there a way that we can? Well, here's my thinking. Certain council members seem to have just information about how things used to be run within council meetings, and we may not have like the background behind it. And obviously, Member Russell, you've been following meetings quite a bit, and I'm just wondering, is there a way that if we were to clean up some of these practices, that we can still keep it within council policy so the future members understand? Oh, yeah, they did. There used to be a kills rule, and the reason was this, or at least keep the wording in there. And then other future councilors can say, oh, well, there used to be pre-approved proclamations. I guess my point is there's a lot of institutional knowledge that leaves once council members roll off, and we don't happen to have that background. Future councils don't have that background. So is there a way that we can keep this information, even though it's out of council policy, but just make a note that this is somehow, capture it somehow within council policy, if that makes sense?
Well, we do keep all the old versions. And of course, now with our electronic agenda items, we can search on there for every time this came up, and you'll see the red lines and the council communication that describes what we did and why. We could drop some footnotes as to things that were removed and why. I try to keep it pretty short and sweet and clear for people. So that may, if it's extended and maybe muddy it up a little bit, but we certainly could. Right now, we just keep all the old versions.
All right. Okay, I guess that we could keep that process. Not saying that I was in favor of removing those. I just kind of like the idea of still having them in there so future council members can understand that they were at one time were in use. Number two, can we go to the FCPA language? I'm kind of wondering about this because we're saying now that, well, let's use 2027. There's going to be four members of council up for election. So that means that final issue, or it should be the summer issue. That summer issue, those four members should not be within that magazine. Is that what we're saying?
Not in an individual capacity. So I believe the magazine has a picture of the entire council in it. So that wouldn't be featuring them individually. It would mean that they wouldn't have the column for that month.
Right.
So it would have to be one of the other three council members.
So I think that can easily be solved by just the scheduling of the other 3 members that are not up for office in
That's
that
what
month.
that's what we would anticipate.
Okay. Let's see here. I think I already, okay, so that one, the other one is, it's not in your list, City Attorney Niles, but I brought it up a few months back. But one of the things on public comment that I wanted to change was the fact that right now we're saying, let's see here, written materials must be submitted to the city clerk in advance or at the meeting. I think that's cleaned up. Then audio-visual materials must be submitted to the city clerk by 5 p.m. on the Thursday prior to the meeting. Oh, here we go. So that first one was fine. The AV materials Thursday prior to the meeting. I'm wondering if we can move that back to either Friday at worst or even the day of. Just because the agenda doesn't come out to Thursday afternoon, and asking members of the public to submit AV materials when the packet hasn't been released, I kind of wonder whether or not we can change that. The other one, and Andrina, this might be more of a question for you or even Mark. The other one would be anyone that's looking to speak virtually has to reach out the Wednesday prior to the meeting by 5 p.m. Again, before the agenda's set. So can we move those up to either the day of or the AV materials I can understand is a little bit more difficult, but Friday before 5 p.m., the Friday prior to the meeting. So I'm not sure who that question would be for, but
For virtual,
do you have the mic on?
it should be.
There we go.
For virtual public comment, the main thing that we need is a email address from the person who's looking to speak. That way we can create a link. Just ensuring with Mark, we can make sure that if that's something that can still be done the day of the meeting or what the absolute cutoff would be for that.
Okay, but we could do it, so it sounds like we can do it the day of the meeting, right? Like
Yes.
noon or 1 p.m. the day of the meeting. to
Yeah,
be
I
safe.
think we would just want to avoid going any later than
Yeah.
probably 4 p.m.
Okay, so that one we can move up.
Yep.
And then what about the AV materials? I know that we've always been just careful with AV materials in general, but
AV materials just kind of varies depending on the type of
Okay.
content. If it's a PDF, usually that's something we could easily have ready to go sooner to the meeting date. If someone's trying to like provide an entire presentation or something that requires usage of like a USB, that might be a little bit more complicated.
would we be able, if we were to push the deadline back to Friday 4 p.m. or Friday 5 p.m., would that be sufficient time?
That could be doable, yes.
So I think I would want to see those type of changes just to allow the public, kind of to Member Prang's point in terms of the way that some members of the public prefer to communicate. I think that provides them different options instead of having to be rushed, which our current practice kind of allows. So, okay.
Okay, so AV materials by Friday at 5 p.m. and then sign up for virtual public comment by Monday by noon.
Yeah, something like that would be fine with me.
Okay.
Okay. Trying to think if there was anything else. I agree with a lot of what our council members stated. I guess we could go through it one by one here in a second, but I'll ask members of council if there's any other questions regarding the packet before we give direction on some of the suggestions by city attorney. Go ahead, Member Russell.
So can I weigh in on, I appreciate a lot of things that have been stated. The meeting attendees, the sign thing, to be real honest with you, probably in the 10 years that I've been on, we go through very few periods where people come with signs. And generally there are no signs sitting in the aisle. They may be, but I mean, I think one thing, we need to not make a whole bunch of rules that we need to enforce, because people, we were created to be self-governing. And if people sitting behind somebody that has a sign politely say, would you please put the sign down while the person is speaking or whatever, I think that would be sufficient. But part of the reason people are bringing signs is because they weren't I think maybe it is a message that people are sending. It's a form, as the city attorney said, of communicating with the council and redressing their government. The one thing, then I want to go on to the next page about public comment, about the mayor shortening the time. We need to remember that we have an elected mayor, but he is not a strong mayor, meaning that if this council decides they want to shorten public comment, it's done by a majority of council, not really putting the mayor on the spot either. Sign up must be truthful, sign up before the meeting starts. People do things for whatever reason. Who's going to enforce it? Is it against the law if they put something down and actually, if it wasn't somebody that had been doing something all along, would we really know whether it's truthful or not? I mean, number one, I'm a very black and white person. I don't write something down that's not truthful. And I expect people to act that way too, but I'm not sure that it's something that we should legislate. Let's see, then I'm going to go on to, I agree with what has been said about the consent agenda. And actually, interestingly enough, I think sometimes when I appreciate the mayor saying nothing was pulled today, did somebody want to pull something? And the truth is, I just got so busy and I hadn't done it. So I appreciate that, and I agree with Councilmember Prang. If we can't get the information that night, let's see, the blackout period. Personally, as council members, I knew I was going to run for office, and my name came up. And I called Chris Hargeth and I said, I cannot write the article in the paper. I think people need to know the rules. I mean, we were told that over and over again by the public. The bottom line is, I knew the rules and I did it ahead of time. I think this is duplicate, and we don't need to do it. If a council member messes up, then I don't know what to say. I think we all just need to be aware of what the rules are and not violate them, and I did not. The electronic participation, this, in some ways, this kind of bugs me. In some way it doesn't, because we have said, we've even had this discussion that for the most part, we want people to attend the meetings and use electronic participation sparingly. I think some people are doing that, others are not. And so when we continue to make more exceptions, then why do we have rules anyway? So I don't necessarily think that's necessary. And I mean, as far as I know, those are the things that stuck out to me the most. So I appreciate that. And thank you, City Attorney, for bringing this forward.
Member Russell, were you okay with the electronic participation or not? I guess I didn't get it clearly.
I really would rather not.
Not? Okay.
I would rather not.
Thank you, Member Russell. Mayor Pro Tem.
I wanted to speak to the sign issue a little bit, maybe even more broadly about decorum in the room, because to me this is, I think maybe we're getting a little too much into the nitty-gritty. My preference would be I'm wondering if we can have, I know we already have some statements like this in there, but more of a general statement that it's against council policy for a citizen to, block any seats that could otherwise be used, or to block someone's view, just a general statement, general decorum. I would like the mayor to have pretty broad authority to say, identify something that we haven't thought of yet that's disruptive in the room or blocking someone in some way, and just ask people to stop. Is that allowed, or do we need to have it carefully documented piece by piece, or can we have a more general statement?
We can have a more general statement. What we like about specific statements is that the mayor then clearly has authority. There's no question whether or not the
Right.
mayor has the authority to enforce this rule. But so the way we do it is we can word it generally, but then provide specific examples, such as no meeting attendee shall block the view of or obstruct the view of another attendee, or block seating needed for another attendee, or something like no meeting attendee shall obstruct the ability for another to participate, including but not limited to holding signage that blocks views, blocking seating, things like that. So we can provide examples
Yeah.
with that general authority,
I
and
think
I
that-
like that.
I think that would be good. On the, I'm fine with the electronic participation. I think there's a good case there to be made for that. And I generally agreed with Councilmember Prang's take on all the things that she brought up as well, especially like the idea of eliminating response to public comment and having council members' choice in that place. And then finally, I wanted to speak to the, I think you had something about if someone violates the rules, they aren't allowed to speak for a certain period of time. I think that takes a lot of pressure off the mayor in the moment to have something like that, where I don't know, we don't want to haul somebody out of the meeting, but if they were disruptive to the meeting, we can analyze it after the fact and go, yes, they were, and therefore there's some actual teeth to it. So less enforcement in the moment, but still having the teeth over a longer period of time, I think will possibly induce people to follow the rules a little more closely. So I like that idea. Otherwise, I'm generally in agreement with most of the suggestions, other than some that council has objected to here on consent agenda and the electronic media and stuff like that. I agree with those changes.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem? Regarding the signs, I just started writing it down. Regarding the signs, I'm okay with having rules around it. Just so people are aware, like obviously, like signs for the most part aren't that big of an issue if we happen to have a scattered attendance. But I guess it being an issue if we do happen to have a full house, which I believe some of the instances where we did have signs come up, I don't recall. Actually, I missed one of the meetings, so I can't recall if a sign was taking the place of a seat in those instances. So in those type of circumstances, I would like to have some definition around if there's no open seating, please hold a seat or sign in your hand, or kind of like what Member Prank stated, it has to be a clear definition. So it is black and white, and we don't have to figure out whether or not they're actually not abiding by the rules on that. So that's one thought on the signs. Consent agenda, which is the currently moving up to 1 p.m. I'm fine with the current state. It sounds like we try to do as best as we can to get that information to staff as soon as possible, but as Member Praying attested to, sometimes it's harder to get the information to staff. So if we keep it at 3 p.m., I think that would be great, but just making sure that council tries their best to not push that deadline. I like the enforcement capability. I like Member Bethel's saying to shorten it to 60 days. I'm fine with that aspect. Electronic participation, I think it makes sense. So I am on board with that. We're only talking about just really those emergency meetings. And I know in some of those instances, we're trying to figure out who's going to be in person, who's going to be here in order to make that work. So if we have the ability to call in remotely, I am fine with that. And response to public comment and moving up council members' choice to right after, I'm for that, but I also can understand that we've had instances where public or council members' choice has gone pretty long. And so my only concern there is that we start kicking down the items that we're actually voting on that evening. But I think in terms of, but even saying that, I think it's still an improvement on our current state. So I would be for that, but just understand that it may just prolong the meetings on the back end. So was there anything that I missed, City Attorney? We'll come back to that once we get a definitive responses from each member of the council. Anyone else want to jump in? Member Bethel?
I think all of my talking points have been mentioned by one council member or another. I don't need to reiterate.
And Member Prang, were you okay with what was stated? I think the sign-up rules are still a little bit not clear. I think you would like some definition on it potentially. I think Mayor Pro Tem, you said the same thing, probably some definition around signs. Member Bethel, you said as well, but
I think the proposal that we have a general statement, then with specific examples,
Right.
including signs and stuff, I
Okay.
think is a good way to do it.
okay.
Yeah, I could be okay with a general statement. I just don't want to prevent people from
Right.
expressing themselves through signage. So if we need to say it can't be above shoulders or whatever, so that people can still freely express themselves, or those who don't have the ability to speak can express themselves. I think some definition around that, and then certainly, if we need a seat, we need a seat.
Right.
And so everybody should be welcome in the room and,
Right.
and to be able to sit. I think I didn't weigh in on the electronic meetings.
Right.
I'm also fine with that.
Okay.
Obviously with limited use when needed. I'm trying to think if there are any other pieces that I didn't address
The
earlier.
enforcement capability, 60 days, were you okay with that?
Yes, 60 days
Okay.
I think is a better option there.
All right.
We want to have some teeth, but also,
Right.
you could have someone who just really, it's their first rodeo
Right.
and they don't understand the rules, and maybe they get upset or lose some decorum in the
Right.
moment. But once you have a conversation and explain how things
Yep.
work, might function differently. So
I
60
agree.
days is better.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Member Bethel, one last thing. I don't think I got a response from you on moving public comment or council member's choice to right after public comment.
I think it's a great idea. I think that the current way that we handle council response to public comment comes off as a little bit cold and slightly uncaring when it's just one person delivering multiple statements to multiple people. I don't know, it doesn't give us, I think,
Right.
the opportunity to respond to the public in the way that they deserve and the way that I would like to respond as well.
Thank you very much for that, Member Bethel. By the way, you're giving a response to public comment tonight, so
I'm looking forward to
since
it.
we're on the topic. Member Russell, go ahead.
So can I ask a question then?
Sure.
If we're not giving, so what is council members' choice moving up to that point going to be, that we could all comment? Because, okay, and so I don't know that we necessarily should do council members' choice. And probably, when I first got on council, everybody, it was open for everyone.
Same here.
It was still when
That was-
you were
yeah.
on, and then it came to a point where they
We were all
eliminated.
talking, yeah.
But I think that we should just have it open, not call it council members' choice, because council members' choice has a different purpose than responding to comment.
I think it'd still be considered public response to public comment. I think we'd still, but it should replace council member's choice at the end of the evening. I guess that's the point. I know. I'm thinking it through as well because there's things that I highlight at the end of the night that aren't pertinent to.
That aren't related to the public comment. And so as council members' choice responds to public comment, I'm actually for that. I think that's a great idea. But I still think we need to name that something different, because we still will need time at the end of the meeting to. Okay. All right. Thank you.
We could add something like council member announcements at the end of the meeting. Because council members' choice can often be making council requests related to public comment. And I think that may be part of the reason it would support moving it up. So we could move council members' choice up, maybe define it a little bit better, and then do council member announcements at the end. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, that's, I think that's fine. And so we might want to think about how we word that, because in how it plays out before this comes forward, right, for approval, maybe we'll have some examples.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you very much, Member Russell. Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to make an argument for directly moving council members' choice to right after public comment and not having any at the end of the meeting. If I have an announcement to make, I want to make it while people are here. So I want to make my announcements then too. I think taking the pressure off council to, one person or even everybody to have to respond to everybody, and also to eliminate that risk where we might be, having a discussion on something that's not an agenda item. If somebody wants to respond to something specific that somebody said, they have that option, but they also could talk about, their upcoming town hall or make a council request on something unrelated and have that time be, there may be some response to public comment, but it's also going to just be a general council member's choice at that point while the public is here.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. All right. Did we give you enough there, City Attorney Niles?
Yes, I believe so.
Do we have an idea when this may be coming back to us for a final vote?
When would you like for it to come back?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be until the first week of April, so.
Yes, I can have it ready as soon
Okay.
as the first week of April.
All right. Sounds great. It'll give us a chance to kind of discuss it a little bit further. But with that, City Attorney Niles, thank you very much for the presentation. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break and come back at the top of the hour to take off the rest of the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Members of council, if you could please be seated. Members of council, if you could please be seated. Members of council, if you could please be seated. Yeah. All right, members of council, members of the public, we are now back. I call this meeting to order. If you're able to do so, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, if you could please take roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Present?
Member Bethel,
Present?
Member Prang,
Present?
Member Russell,
Present.
Member Ward, and Mayor Sierra.
Present.
Let the record show 5 present.
Thank you. And Member Ward did let me know he would not be in attendance tonight. Moving on to minutes from the regular City Council meeting on March 2nd. Any changes to the minutes from March 2nd? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd?
So moved?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could I get a second?
Second?
Thank you, Member Bethel. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Prang,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Ward, Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you so much. Moving on to recognitions, we have 2 tonight. Up first is Englewood City Council would like to recognize Swedish Security Officer Anthony Scine, I believe. Is Mr. Scine in attendance tonight? Good evening, Mr. Scine. So on February 11, 2026, Englewood Police responded to a report of a young female in distress at Health One Swedish. Prior to the officer's arrival, Director of Safety and Security Anthony Scine responded with his team after being alerted by witnesses. Anthony quickly recognized the seriousness of the situation and acted immediately to safely assist the individual and move her away from danger. He remained with her, provided support in ensuring her safety until officers arrived. Anthony's quick thinking, courage under pressure, and selfless commitment to the safety of our residents directly prevented what could have been a tragedy. Anthony Scine's actions exemplify the highest standards of professionalism, bravery, and dedication to the safety of others. His heroic intervention reflects great credit upon himself, his team, and those at HCA Health One Swedish. Mr. Scine, thank you very much for what you did just a week ago. Thank you very much for everything that you do for Swedish Hospital as well as the City of Englewood. Thank you, Mr. Scine. And we're going to take a quick with all members of council with Mr. Scine as well. All right. We're moving on to the neighborhood group leaders. So tonight, Englewood City Council would like to recognize the Englewood neighborhood group leaders. The goal of the Neighborhood Resources Program is to create a sense of belonging for residents, and neighborhood group leaders are key to making that happen. They bring neighbors together and help people feel more connected to each other, to local government, and to the broader community. These leaders have stepped up in real ways, planning block parties, hosting movie nights, volunteering as snow buddies, putting together neighborhood newsletters, and helping identify issues in their neighborhoods. Their efforts are helping to build stronger and more inclusive neighborhoods across Englewood. Their work is making Englewood much stronger. Thank you very much, neighborhood leaders. I was looking to my left, but Madeline, you're right up front. So I think we're going to be announcing each of the individuals, and we're going to be presenting them with certificates as well. Perfect. And you're taking the picture, correct? All right.
Rhonda Wilcox. Tracy Savina. Kay Sue Anderson. Sonia Strom. Kathy Woody. Stephanie Mullet. And Keith Mullet. And Andrew Forlines.
All right, everyone, we are now moving on to, there's no appointments, communications, or proclamations tonight, so moving on to recognition of public comment. This time is devoted to listening to comment from the public. We allot up to 90 minutes, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes total. Each speaker is to sign up prior to the start of the meeting. There is a sign-up sheet in the back of the room. Please state your address if you're an Englewood resident or your cross streets, or just the city if you happen to reside outside the city of Englewood. I will not mention your address or your cross streets. Just state whether or not state which district you happen to live in. Anyone that wants to speak virtually, please contact our city clerk's office prior to 5 p.m. the Wednesday prior to the city council regular meeting. Hopefully that changes. If you do wish to use AV materials, please submit those to the city clerk by 5 p.m. the Thursday prior to the meeting. As well as if you're looking to use video, please use the area in the back. Let's see here. We have about 7 speakers or so. It looks like we happen to have everyone, no one has addressed council in the last 90 days. So I'll just go down the list. I see we have Ms. Sabrina Williams from District 4. Is she on virtually? No, she's not on virtually. All right, keep me posted if she happens to jump back on by the end of the speakers. I believe the next name is Michael Stephen or Michael Steppen. I may get Stephen. Okay. And you're a District 1 resident. All right. Oh, so I will. There's gonna be a timer up front. When it gets yellow, it means that you have 1 minute remaining. So there should be a green speaker. Yeah. So it'll start off at green. Yeah, it'll start off green. Once it gets to that orange yellow, that means that you have 1 minute left, and I'll stop you at 3 minutes. The red is you're at 3 minutes. Yeah. So, Mr. Stephen, when you are ready, go ahead and click. There should be a star, and that should light up that microphone green. Right on the microphone, right next to the microphone. Do you see it? Is it a star or just maybe some sort of sticker? Maybe they changed it.
Oh, I thought it was like a.
Yeah, we made you. I pointed you in the wrong direction.
Like, that's common sense. Come on.
All right. Well, Mr. Stephen, apologies for that, but when you are ready, you may begin.
I'm going to talk about something that's very dear to my heart. I am homeless. I am very open about it, and I have an issue with some things that have been happening with the homeless people. 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting here, which was fine, and the cops, we were outside next to the library, and to all you people at home, yes, I'm actually doing this. They stopped us, didn't harass us, as you said, you can't stay here. And I said, where can the homeless actually go to get help? And they didn't have an answer. I'm asking if any of you have an answer, because from what I can see, you're not doing anything to help us. I want you to think about that for a second. Look in the mirror and realize if you go home tonight, you got nothing, because that's what we have. Because you aren't doing anything to help us. There are agencies out there that are begging for money to help people get off the streets, get their social security cards, get their driver's ID or private licenses, even IDs, get on Medicaid, and all those companies or all those agencies are being cut back because Englewood seems to be giving all the money to other people. I'm not pointing fingers. You're the mayor, you're in charge of the city. I'm asking, what are you doing to help us out? And I'm not one of these crackheads or drug addicts, alkies that everyone says, oh, they're just another homeless person doing drugs. I am completely drug-free, and I've been alcohol-free for 2.5 months, and yes, it sucks. But that was my choice, and I'm like, I need to take care of some stuff. I need to be on my own. I need to be back in civilization again. I've been applying for jobs, and when you apply for a job and you're homeless, nothing. I decided that in a couple of months, when city council meets again, I'm going to invite a whole bunch of homeless people in here with our bags and say, hey, just so you get an idea on how many people are homeless, there's a lot more of us going to be out there than people that have homes, because rent is just too, I'm glad you lit up, too high. $2,000 a month for an apartment, for a roof over your head, and all that you hear is, oh, well, just go get a second job. Well, if I had a second job, I wouldn't need an apartment at all. I'm saving $24,000 a year because I don't have to pay rent. And I'm not one of those people who do drugs. You can do a test on me anytime you want. Completely drug-free. And I ask again, what are any of you two doing, or any of you guys doing about it? And I answer, nothing. And to everybody who's out here, we do not want to sit on your porches or your doorsteps at all. But these guys aren't doing anything to help us. That's all.
Mr. Stephen, thank you very much for coming and speaking tonight. Any questions for members of council? Actually, I have one question, Mr. Stephen. So you were outside of the library when you were removed by our police officers. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yeah, he was cool. He was very nice. He just said, we've talked to you guys a few times. I'm like, well, tell us where we
Okay.
can go. And there's no place in Englewood for homeless. Every time you go somewhere, the cops say you can't stay here. Well, then bring me to your home because I got no place to go.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. That was my one question. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Just so you know the process, we'll have a member of council give a response to you specifically once we get through all the speakers. So
Okay.
I appreciate your time, Mr. Stephen.
How much is that going to be, like 2 or 3 hours?
Oh,
or-
no. It should be about 20 minutes or so. There's 7
Okay, I
speakers.
just didn't want till midnight and whatever.
No, you're good.
Okay.
It should be about 20. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. Up next is Lorraine Cahill, and I believe a District 4 resident. Did I pronounce it correctly? Is it Cahill?
Yeah, you
Good
did
evening,
good.
Ms. Cahill. When you are ready, you may begin.
Hello, thank you. I'm Lorraine Cahill, the Secretary at Clayton Elementary, and I thank you for this opportunity to talk about the 50th anniversary of the 1976 Clayton Time Capsule Celebration. Little history. In 1948, Clayton Elementary was opened and dedicated to the past principal of Hawthorne Elementary, Ralph B. Clayton. Principal Clayton resigned his position when he was drafted into service for the war. He died in Africa serving his country. Clayton Elementary was opened with the commitment to carry on his mission for patriotism, community, and service to others in his memory. In honor of this commitment, the Student Council at Clayton Elementary petitioned to then President Gerald Ford in 1975 to have the school recognized as a bicentennial school in celebration of the nation's 200th anniversary. To be selected, the Student Council developed a year-long plan focused on patriotism, community involvement, and service. The students also shared lessons through plays and activities with the students at Clayton Elementary and with the history of the United States and demonstrated their patriotism within the community. Clayton was honored with the designation of a bicentennial school and was given the privilege to fly a flag flown over the White House during the bicentennial year. In 1976, the service concluded with the Student Council members planting a blue spruce tree to commemorate the bicentennial, and a time capsule was buried containing the details of the 1975-76 school year events with the intention that it be opened in April 2001. 25 years later, in 2001, then Principal Shelley Overturf and the Clayton Student Council hosted an event to unearth the 1976 time capsule and share its contents with the community. The event was a huge success. During this event, a second time capsule was buried underneath the tree with plans for it to be opened in April 2026. On April 23rd at 4 p.m., we will be celebrating this 50th anniversary of the original 1976 time capsule by unearthing the second time capsule placed in 2001. All of Englewood School alumni are invited to join us for this special anniversary celebration. It would be an honor if we had the members of City Council and the help of the city to help commemorate this event. Thank you, and I will answer any questions.
Ms. Cahill, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions for members of council? I have one because I missed it. Did you say April 23rd?
April 23rd.
April
4
23rd,
p.m.
what time?
4 p.m., 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Can't miss
Perfect.
it. It's a huge school on the corner.
Okay, perfect. I think that might be my only question. I just wanted to make sure I had the date and time. I don't see any further questions from council. Ms. Cahill, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, up next is Lisa Collins, a District 1 resident. Good evening, Ms. Collins. When you are ready, you may begin.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Lisa Collins. I live in Old Town, District 1, and I've been an Englewood resident for 6 years. I'm here tonight because the city's surveillance contracts have raised serious concerns, and Council's being asked to expand this infrastructure by voting on CB 24, the data sharing agreement between CBI and EPD for Axon data. Englewood currently operates with both Flock and Axon, so these are not necessarily distinct concerns. City-reported flock transparency data for 2025 shows the fixed camera system scanning between 2.4 and 2.7 million vehicles per month, each one a resident, commuter, or visitor captured largely without their knowledge. Of those millions of scans, roughly 4,000 to 6,000 return as hot lists for a hit rate of 0.15 to 0.3%. A hit is not an outcome, it's just a database match that requires follow-up. Council's never been shown how many of those flags led to an actual arrest, a recovered vehicle, or a confirmed crime prevented. I believe that this distinction matters before we expand these and similar services further. What compounds my concern is Flock's record as a vendor. In addition to multiple confirmed security vulnerabilities, they've admitted to a pilot program giving CPD and Homeland Security access to their network, and in Denver, City Council unanimously voted to end its contract after the company's CEO made false statements directly to council members. Denver's mayor renewed the contract twice without a council vote by structuring renewals just under the approval threshold. While tonight's vote regards an IGA for sharing Axon data with CBI, and while acknowledging that Axon's reputational concerns are not exactly the same as Flock's, this IGA authorizes a private vendor to receive sensitive criminal justice data on Englewood residents, and it renews automatically for up to 5 years with no additional council review, oversight, or vote. Approve it tonight as written, and council may not see it again until 2031. The agreement includes a carve-out that applies whenever federal or state law requires disclosure. That's a broad exception in a rapidly changing federal environment. I raise Flock and Axon together because they represent the same pattern. Surveillance infrastructure expanded contract by contract, each one adding complexity with oversight lagging behind. I'm asking council to govern them with the rigor they deserve and to pause before adding another layer to infrastructure that's not yet been held accountable for the one already in place. I respectfully ask council to, number 1, amend CB 24 to require annual council review rather than automatic renewal for up to 5 years. 2, require EPD to report verified annual outcomes for both Flock and Axon, not scan volumes or alert counts, but confirmed public safety results. 3, establish a written city policy defining who may authorize third-party vendor access to surveillance data and when council approval is required. 4, bring any future surveillance contract requiring council approval to council at least 3 months before its effective date. 5, as the contract only allows for termination via breach, request a written estimate from the city attorney for the cost to pursue a breach of contract claim against a comparative vendor.
I think I missed that. Did we go over time? I was writing down all your notes. Sorry about that, members of council, members of the public. Thank you very much, Ms. Collins, for your time tonight. Member Russell, you have your first question.
I do have a question. Can you send those or give the list to the city clerk so that we can have it? You can either email it to the city clerk and have it sent to council.
Yes.
So I'd appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Collins, thank you for, don't see any further comments. I think I had everything you wrote down or you listed out, but if you provide it to city clerk, that would help us for tonight. Thank you very much for your time. Up next is Jeff Phillipson, a District 1 resident. Good evening, Mr. Phillipson. When you are ready, you may begin.
Right. A couple days ago, I wrote a letter, and I'll read it now for you, to the City Council and the Traffic Calming Program representatives. My name is Jeff Phillipson. I'm a 15-year resident of West Dartmouth Avenue, and I'm the grandfather of a first grader at Bishop Elementary, and I'm writing to formally address the proposed removal of the traffic lights along Dartmouth in favor of roundabouts. While I appreciate the town hall on March 11th, transparency has got to be more than a buzzword. It requires brutal honesty. The traffic light near my house was a significant factor when I bought my home, and it provides a definitive signaled safety barrier for my granddaughter and every other student crossing to the school. Before the city spends millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars to dismantle a system that currently works, I demand a comprehensive and public accounting of the following. Safety to cost calculation. I want you to show the community the complex data that proves a roundabout is safer for 7-year-old pedestrians than a controlled red light. It's not enough to just simply say studies have shown. 2, I want a full disclosure of the downsides, right? I want to see the hidden costs, not just budget, but negative impacts on traffic flow, maintenance, snow removal, bicyclist safety. that were critically weighed and considered. And 3, justification for the change. And we don't need change for the sake of change. If you can't prove with certainty that the project is well worth the multi-million-dollar price tag, then it should be rejected. I ask you to vote on these projects as if it were your own children or grandchildren crossing this specific street. And if you proceed with the change and the safety of my family's compromised, then the responsibility for that decision, I know, rests on you. I want City Council to be more critical of these projects and brutally honest about the downsides. I expect to see the data-backed justification for each traffic calming project made public before any further steps are taken. That was my letter, and I guess I'll just answer questions.
All right. Mr. Phillipson, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Yep.
Any questions for members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Phillipson, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Up next is Danielle Carr, District 4 resident. Good evening, Ms. Carr.
Hi,
When you are ready, you may begin.
thank you. So I have some issues with all this redevelopment as well. Traffic calming circles on Dartmouth at Logan and Downing. I'm basically just going to say, what are you thinking? Big trucks and SUVs will not even be able to get around them. How do slabs of concrete in the middle of the road make anything better? The one by the King Soopers Pharmacy is the most dangerous and poorly designed circle I've probably ever seen and tried to drive through. I can't. That's what stop signs and traffic lights are for. Look up the Gettysburg Square. I really encourage you. That circle makes sense. These do not. Could we please place a left turn arrow light on Broadway at Oxford and at Quincy instead of pouring more concrete like is being done at Shenango and Tufts? Again, the sidewalk corner cutouts failed big time throughout the neighborhood. They backfill with water and sand and are more slippery now than before. A curb was put in on Huron, eliminating the crossing from the Greenbelt across from Rotolo Park. Please look into that. All these pointless construction projects are expensive and have cost us millions of dollars. Is it true we are bankrupt to the federal government? Cushing Park redevelopment also makes no sense. The signs say it's for children aged 5 to 12, and I took photos, which I can show you later, of my 12-year-old daughter and my 4.5-year-old grandson, and neither of them can fit up those steps without bumping their heads or having to get on hands and knees to go up the steps. The concept was great, it looks really cool, but the construction of it completely failed. Is that what we can expect from our construction projects in our town? How many of you grew up here? Did you ever go to Cinderella City as a kid? Do you have children who've attended this library for the past 28 years? Can you say 4 generations of your family have enjoyed this area? Well, I can answer yes to every single one of those questions. And my 6 children grew up attending this library. The older ones enjoyed playing in the fountain when they were young, and all 6 of them have participated in events inside this amazing building. Where does a teenager go in this area for positive recreational activities? There are very few options, but this library, the community room, and Hampton Hall have provided my family countless opportunities over the 26 years we've been Englewood residents. Why is this age of development more focused on tearing down than preservation? Please keep and protect this one last remaining piece of Cinderella City Mall. Teens desperately need positive opportunities, and this location already serves that purpose. Getting rid of it and expecting developers who are in it for money to create something better than what already exists makes me very nervous, given the fact that all the examples I've shared seem to have only made things worse. Please do it for the children and keep this building the way it is, and just figure out a way to bring it back to life. Thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Carr, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions from council? I have one. I think you listed them out, but I didn't catch them. The left turn arrows?
Yes.
Did you say Oxford, Quincy, and Tufts? Were those the?
At Broadway and Oxford and Broadway and Quincy.
Oh, it was just those 2.
Because I mentioned Tufts and Shenango because that's where they're being dug up right now for all the dangerous concrete.
That's why I have Tufts. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right. I see no further questions. Ms. Carr, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. My
Up
daughter's going
next,
to
I believe,
speak.
is Kimberly Carr.
And she has my phone with notes. Oh, I'm sorry.
That works. Ms. Carr, when you are ready, you may begin.
Please do not tear down this building. Thinking about this building being gone makes me cry. I never got to experience being in Cinderella City, and I do not want the last piece to be torn down. I've had so many good memories here, and I want to create more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carr. Any questions for Ms. Carr from members of council? I see none. Ms. Carr, thank you very much for coming and speaking tonight. All right, and I think the final name on the list is Mr. Matt Crabtree, a District 1 resident. Mr. Crabtree, when you are ready, you may begin.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Matt Crabtree. I live at Sherman and Cornell. So as you may or may not know, last week I had a neighborhood forum about public safety and privacy in the city of Englewood, specifically covering some of the topics like flock. Leading up to this, I did a series of records requests in an attempt to give a little bit of more information and context for the members of the community that attended. About 60 people attended. One of the questions that I asked for, which went to the Englewood Police Department, was the exact physical locations of all permanently installed flock safety cameras and devices, including the direction each camera is oriented or facing. The police chief talked about at the last study session how transparent things are with the flock system. The response that I received back from the police department is, quote unquote, production of such records is denied pursuant to CRS 2472-305, contrary to public interest. That's not very transparent. I would actually like to formally request tonight that the members of the City Council, and you do have this authority, is to publicly provide the exact location of every flock camera in the city in which and the direction it's facing. That would increase a level of transparency on this that I don't think exists right now. Additionally, another request that I had put in through records, any privacy impact assessments, legal reviews, policy analysis, or risk assessments conducted prior to or after the deployment of the flock safety technology. The response was, the requested records are exempt from disclosure as attorney-client privilege communications. This is information that's important to the community, especially based upon the controversy surrounding the flock system. Additionally, I would encourage you not to go the route that Denver did with this technology. Headlines say, Denver dumps flock. Subheadline, Axon. This technology is not something that we, as the people of this city or the city council, can control. The data is not contained within the city of Englewood. It is released to a third-party corporation that we have no control over. We could hope that there's contractual requirements that limit that access to that information. Unfortunately, that has been proven time and time again through whatever data collection source there is out there, that information can be obtained either by their own admission, such as what happened with Flock, or through other nefarious means. So I would like to formally request that at least those two questions are filled in tonight, and at least the direction or the exact location of all the flock cameras in the city. That would help with the transparency conversation right now. So thank you.
Mr. Crabtree, thank you very much for coming to speak tonight. Member Prang has the first question.
Thank you. Thanks for the discussion, Mr. Crabtree. Would you be willing to share the portions from your core requests that were not answered,
Certainly.
or in the response that you got to them?
Yes, absolutely. Would you like it via email?
I don't know how it comes to council,
how do we want
but
to do this?
however it can
So everybody
come
has
to
an equal
council.
opportunity to see this.
So it's on your phone, is that what you're saying?
It's on my phone.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind emailing it to someone, or either Andrina or to Sean, and then he'll make sure to get it to us.
Perfect. Thank you.
That works.
Thank you.
Mr. Crabtree, actually, I have one question.
Yes.
Just something that I've been kind of just wrestling with. Do you see any benefit to the cameras themselves?
No.
Either in the short term or long term?
I mean, let's put it this way. Could there be a measurable impact to crime and public safety in the city with a system like this? Absolutely. There certainly could. However, at what cost of privacy is there for a system like this to exist?
Okay. I appreciate the response, Mr. Crabtree. Yeah. I see no further questions. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
That was the final speaker. I'm going to circle back. Do we have Sabrina Williams jump on at all?
She has not.
All right, perfect. So with that, it does conclude public comments. Member Bethel, quite a list. So when you are ready, you may give a response to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all of the members of the public. I think Mr. Ben David would like to speak as well.
Oh.
Yeah, let's get him up here.
Mr. Ben David, were you on the list or?
Let me get up to the microphone. Yeah, thank you. I signed up on the list, but my name wasn't called. So I signed up about a week and a half ago.
Oh, so we did, okay, so I just, okay.
I think we have 2 more tonight.
So
as
I
well.
apologize.
Oh, do we? So we have 2 speakers tonight?
I can get the names for you if we'd like to get them on there.
Mr. Ben David, if you wouldn't mind providing the other name as well. So sorry about that.
okay.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. So it did not conclude public comments. So Mr. Ben David, you're a District 1 resident. When you are ready, you may begin.
Yep. Benjamin Ben David, Amherst and South Lincoln Street. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope well. Here to talk about community safety. I'm talking about the problem addressed on my block 2831 South Lincoln. Here to remind everyone that on November 19th, 2025, there was a SWAT raid on this house. It was for one individual. He was apprehended for 2 fugitive from justice, and he was found with drugs on his person and in the house. December 15th, 2025, one of the residents from 2831 came over to my house, was on my property, blocked my driveway for me parking. I had to call EPD. They arrived. He ran into his house. The case is still active. The city prosecutor's office has been trying to serve this individual to come to court, but they're not able to. This person will run away if you walk up with a button-down shirt. He'll run. So I guess the next thing that needs to happen is to send a certified letter to his address, and if that doesn't work, then I think a warrant needs to be issued. This is from December 15th, and now we're into March. On February 15th, 2026, someone overdosed at the house. They were brought out on a stretcher. Squad arrived along with the ambulance and about 5 Englewood police cars and about at least 12 police officers. I don't know if that's normal to pick someone up from a house like that. Once again, it's unknown how many people live in this house. We don't know how many come and go. Today, I counted 4 cars. 3 of the cars didn't have license plates, and 1 did have 1 plate, and then 4 people coming and going. This is just today. And this is only what I can see with my cameras or what I see with my eyes. The other part is, this is a little bit of comic relief. When the SWAT raid happened on November 19th, now they're trying to build a fence around the front part of the house to keep out, I guess, any future SWAT trucks from getting in off to the front yard. Englewood Zoning and Development was called, and of course, they broke the law again. They didn't have a permit to do that, so there was a stop work issued, and the landlord's going to be issued I guess a ticket. I think it's $500 minimum for that. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Ben David, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions from members of council? I don't see any. Mr. Ben David, thank you very much for your time. All right, and final name on the list is Candace Rutledge, resident that resides outside of Englewood. So I think that should be sufficient. Ms. Rutledge, when you are ready, you have your 3 minutes. You may begin.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Candace Rutledge and I'm from Littleton. And I just wanted to follow up on the flock issue. I wanted to read something that is online at cbsnews.com. It says the FBI confirms its networks were targeted by suspicious cyber activities. And that is updated on March 6th of this year. And they reported that they had data collection systems that were targeted through internet service provider vendor infrastructure. And in the news over the past few years, even on TV, they've talked about domain name server resolvers being attacked by an allegedly Chinese group called Salt Typhoon. And the reason that this is pertinent is because you guys are talking about flock cameras and that data storage and who accesses that. So if these foreign actors, allegedly foreign, actually have access to that data, you don't know what they can do to people. I've actually lived through the fallout of being cyber terrorized, men-in-the-middle attacks, redirection, having your SIM card copied, all of that bullshit. Sorry. I've been through it, and until you've lived it, it's hard to understand how debilitating that can be to someone. So I just want to put that out there, that that's a risk when you got the flock camera data collection going on, and even the FBI systems, part of whom were coded by Lockheed Martin, which is pretty big on security. You know, that's they're getting into them. So anyway.
Ms. Rutledge, thank you very much for your time. Any questions? Don't see none. Ms. Rutledge, thank you very much for coming and speaking tonight. And with that, it does conclude public comment for the evening. Member Bethel, when you are ready, you may give a response.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, thank you to all of the residents that spoke tonight. We have a lot of concerns that were addressed this evening, and I'm going to do my best to address all of those. Let's see. Mr. Stevens, thank you for coming. Is it Stephen? Mr. Stephen, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate your words. You don't need to. I appreciate your words, and I appreciate the issues that you've brought up. And you bring a mirror to us to look ourselves in the eyes and ask if we're doing enough. And I don't think that we are. And you've said that loud and clear. When I asked myself, where is a place in Englewood that you can go tonight and have a home? I came up short. And I think we should all take a moment to consider that. We are all extremely fortunate to go to our homes tonight. And I don't have an answer for you this evening, but I'd like to work on one. And I hope that I can work with my community. And it brings me to the next point that Ms. Cahill brought with Clayton Elementary, that it was founded on the ideals of patriotism and service. And to me, there's nothing more patriotic than standing up for our fellow Americans and to do service for our community. I think we should all consider that. I certainly am, and I'll be considering that for the rest of the evening as well as I go home tonight. To our citizens that wanted to talk about traffic calming, this is also something that I'm exceptionally passionate about. I am one of the citizens that lives at one of the proposed intersections. I live at the corner of Dartmouth and Downing. I've been personally impacted by the unsafe conditions at that intersection. I've seen countless accidents. I have pulled car seats out of mangled vehicles. I've washed blood off my sidewalk. I've watched a dog die in its owner's arms just 2 weeks ago. And I'm tired of seeing these accidents that are preventable. And it breaks my heart. And in my research, in the data that I have, in the studies that I've read, roundabouts are a solution. We have firm evidence and we have firm data that support the implementation of these roundabouts. And I would love to share these studies with you. To each person that came and discussed tonight, Mr. Phillipson, I know that you'd like to see those studies in full, that you'd like the firm numbers, and I'd like to discuss those with you. Because I'm sure that our combined eyes together can look at the critical data that's presented, break it down, and see that I think that it works. But if you disagree with me, I'd like to have that discussion on how we can grow together. Ms. Carr and Ms. Carr, thank you for coming to speak tonight, both of you. And again, on our traffic circles, first to address the concern that trucks won't be able to navigate. Our Public Works Department has done comprehensive studies to show that the emergency vehicles and large trucks will be able to transmit these roundabouts. It will be uncomfortable enough for them to slow down the speeds. It'll be like a curb. So vehicles will have to slow down. It will be an obstacle, not that they can't navigate, but they will have to slow down to navigate. And that is my goal, is to slow vehicles down enough to the point that they won't run into another car and they won't run into a pedestrian. Or a bicycle for that matter. When it comes to our City Hall and Library, from what I understand and what's been presented to me, to renovate this building, to bring it up to code, to bring it where it needs to be, should we address the maintenance concerns, it would be far more than constructing a new building. Now, this is, again, a question that we're continuing to explore. These are not things that I have the final answer on. I'm the new guy in this council. and we're continuing to have these discussions, right? Our library is an important part of our community. We have a library board and we run our own library, unlike many of the other communities in Arapahoe County. And I think that's something that's special about Englewood. So our library continues to be a priority for me. I sit on that library board, and it's something that I'd like to see continue. As far as public safety and our surveillance, again, these are things that I am very passionate about. And our constitutional rights to privacy, or lack thereof currently, means that we have a responsibility in Englewood to decide where our privacy lies and how we want to defend our privacy. And I think that is something that we need to be extremely firm on. Because, like Mr. Crabtree has pointed out, that data is not in Englewood's domain. It is hosted off-site. And we have discrete examples of that data being compromised. I'd also like to recognize that this is a tool for our police department to multiply their numbers, to address safety in our police department, and to make sure that our Englewood police have the best tools available to them to enforce our laws and to ensure their safety. That balance is something that will be difficult to find, but we need to look after our privacy first and foremost. And Mr. Ben David, thank you again for coming to speak. I always appreciate you being here. We are dedicated to finding a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Mayor Pro Tem?
I wanted to speak, just having, as our Tri-Cities homelessness policy group representative, speak a little bit to what the city does have. I think it's a valid question to say whether the city is doing enough to address homelessness. But I've been involved with homeless services in Englewood since at least 2015, and want to just provide a little bit of my perspective on it. When I first got involved in homeless services, there wasn't a lot. I think Giving Heart was the only provider in the city back then, and they started perhaps in 2012. Then in 2017, a group of churches and nonprofits got together in Englewood with help from the city government, started Change the Trend, which is an organization of over 35 nonprofits that coordinate together to provide homeless services in the Tri-Cities area, Englewood, Littleton, and Sheridan. And then in 2020, the city of Englewood, along with Littleton and Sheridan, put together a Tri-Cities plan of action, and have now worked through a 3-year process and are in our second process of doing a second action plan as well. So we've taken the approach of partnering with a lot of different organizations. So the city itself doesn't provide a lot of services, but we do fund a lot. We have funded a lot of different programs over the years, and also partner with different organizations to help. So I'll just run through a few of those. We have one of the biggest things we did with the action plan was to help launch Bridge House, which is a job program. There's currently 32 people that have either been in that program or are currently in it, that trains people who are getting off the streets in job training, get them back in housing, and they actually provide housing during their time in that program. We launched the Navigation Center, which connects people experiencing homelessness with individualized interventions support. We helped fund Cross Purpose, which serves people who are on the other side of that, where they are close to getting into homelessness. That operates out of Englewood as well, and provides training in 12 different fields of study that people can go and make more money than they currently are. We have also worked closely with Movement 5280, with Hat Force, to provide vouchers for severe weather sheltering. We're partnered with Cafe 180 that provides meals, as well as kind of a pay it forward model. We've hired a municipal court navigator specifically to help people with homelessness to navigate that system as well. And then we have our co-responder program and our case manager with the police department. And also, in addition to that, of course, our Tri-Cities Homelessness Policy Coordinator. We still have work to do, I think, but we're making an effort to address some of these issues, and I do hope you'll avail yourself. If anyone is in need of services, we're eager to help get you connected with the resources we do have. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Russell, go ahead.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you all for coming. I want to say a special thank you to Miss Kimberly Carr and your courage to stand up. We haven't decided the answer to your question yet, but I appreciate the history that your family has. Thank you so much. Also, Ms. Cahill, thank you for coming to share. This is really an exciting time for Clayton Elementary School, and I was not aware of that, so I greatly appreciate that. I have some council requests. I'd like a response to the 5 questions that Ms. Collins asked, so I want to make sure that we get that. Mr. Phillipson, thank you very much for bringing your concerns, and I would like to do a council request on the questions in his email that he shared with us tonight. I think it's important to answer these questions because staff needs to look into this as well as City Council, and our citizens deserve an answer to these questions. Also, I would like a council request on the construction at Cushing Park. If it's not appropriate, age level appropriate, what do we intend to do about that? And we need to make sure, so I want somebody to check it out to make sure it is. If it's not, we need to make sure it doesn't happen in the future at the other parks as well. Then also, I would like a council request on the email that Mr. Crabtree is sending to us about the transparency. Also, I don't know what kind of information we can get for Mr. Ben David, but this is an ongoing problem, and I do believe it needs to be addressed also. Thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Member Russell. So I had 4, maybe 5 council requests just from that. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And I did see Ms. Collins's email show up in our email box. All right, with that, that concludes public comment. Are we good to move forward with consent? Yep. Okay. Perfect. I see. Actually, so 9C1 is an item that we have to move. There's going to be some changes made to the MOU between the DDA and the city. So I'm going to ask that we table that item to date uncertain. I believe I need to make that formal motion. So can I make a motion to, well, actually, let's start with the consent agenda items and then we'll come back to that one in case there's any questions. But I saw no other consent agenda items being pulled for tonight. If that's the case, can I get a motion to approve 9A1 and 9B1 and 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Praying. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Russell. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward. And Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you. Moving back to 9C1, Member Russell, I think your questions still stand regarding that item, even though it's being pulled tonight. Should those questions just be answered as part of what comes back to us moving forward?
Well, actually, yes. So I think probably what would answer my questions is just have a public presentation instead of putting it on consent agenda, and also address the issues that I had on there.
Okay, so even though it's just going to be, I believe, the MOU right now, you just want that on not a consent.
Not on consent.
Okay, that was the request.
Okay.
All right, so with that, can I get a motion to?
I move to table 9C1 to a date uncertain.
There we are. Thank you very much, Member Russell. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward. And Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you. Moving on to 11A1. We have the data sharing agreement between the CBI and the Englewood Police Department to use the Colorado Crime Information Center and National Crime Information Center. We have our Chief of Police, Dave Jackson, on this item. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. How are you? Dave Jackson, Chief of Police, and tonight we are requesting approval of an intergovernment agreement to receive the hot list data from Colorado Bureau of Investigation to the Englewood Police Department.
Chief, is there anything else you want to add regarding this? I know that we covered this as part of last week's data sharing study session item. Anything else that you want to add about this, or what specifically the information is that is being received and transmitted?
Yeah, I think I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think just to be clear, this is information that we are already getting. This is a new IGA that has been requested. This is information that is already coming directly from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to the Department.
Thank you very much, Chief. Are there any questions? Member Bethel, go ahead and start us off.
To clarify, you've painted this as a one-way street. This is
That's
information that comes from CBI into Englewood, and there's nothing that goes from Englewood into CBI in this agreement.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions from members of council? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming, Chief. I want to just for the sake of the public to help understand this, and myself as well. I know we did have a study session on it, but the data that is going from CBI, which is the hot list, so we're not getting every license plate, data on who every license plate belongs to. It's just the ones that have some criminal implication.
Thank you. That's right.
Okay, and then where does that data, does it go straight into the police car with these cameras, or is it going into a database that then that's held with Axon, and then the camera in the car is sending how's that all work? Where's the data in?
Yes. It does go to Axon has the cameras that are in the car. I will make sure that I'm saying this correctly. For the hot list, that data is alerted to the police car. And that database from Axon is called evidence.com that then gives us the hot list.
Okay, and so then when the camera sees a license plate, it sends that license plate number to evidence.com to match it with a hot list, or is that?
It's already in the car.
It's already in the car. Okay. So they download the hot list into the car and then compares the license plates directly to.
If the police car were driving down Hamden and a stolen car was driving the other way, it would go, ding, there's a stolen car right there.
Okay, and then is the license plates that are seen within the car, are those stored
for 30 days?
Every license plate is.
Sorry. Talking about a stolen car, it would stay for 30 days.
Okay.
It's on the hot list.
So if
everything else is just gone.
If it sees me in my non-stolen car, that disappears from the system immediately. It's no retention at all.
No retention.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, Member Russell.
So first of all, the data is coming from the license plate readers located in our city. Is that correct?
No. This is coming from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to the cars. There's no upload of data. It's coming from the hot list straight to us.
It's coming from the hot list straight to us, but we're using the license plate readers to find those, the cameras, correct?
I think you're describing the flock cameras, which is a different system. This is the IGA for the CBI hot list to come to the in-car license plate readers from CBI to the police car.
So and whether it's flock or whether it's Axon, they're all license plate readers. So those aren't being used at all in this.
The flock cameras are not being used in this.
Okay. And I'm having problems with saying we only have the information for 30 days. Generally, when I download something onto my computer, it's there in perpetuity until I delete it. Am I misunderstanding that?
Yes, there's, um, I'm not really sure how to answer this.
Real quick, council member, Vance Fenner, Deputy Chief. So the two systems you're talking about are completely separate. So the Axon Fleet 3 system does not retain any license plates that do not hit on the hot list. So that's the CBI IGA we're speaking about. What you're talking about is a 30-day retention, reference a different vendor, the flock camera ALPRs, and that is on a hard automatic 30-day deletion. It doesn't just sit, so it's an automatic 30-day deletion.
Okay.
From date.
Then I have another question. I have two family members that have built federal data centers all over the country. There is absolutely no electronic transmissions that go away. They are kept forever. I'm just having trouble reconciling all of this.
I'm not sure about the others, but just to clarify your previous question, we just don't have a mechanism to download that for us to keep it like on a hard drive or something like that. We just don't have that capability to do that.
Okay, so I have one other question, because I know that there is some information out there that was put out there on a crime that was probably committed last October or November, and it's still out there. It's still accessible. And so why would the police leave information out there?
That's a great question and a great clarification. Like I was saying with a stolen car, for example, there's retention records. I know we had a slide. When a crime occurs, we have to keep that information for a certain amount of time as evidence to present for a trial or things like that. So we do keep crime information. We don't keep, I guess for lack of a better word, throwaway information. A normal car that the Mayor Pro Tem kind of described his car, we don't keep that.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all that you do to keep us safe. And I believe that this council, and probably every council I have sat on, has made sure that the police department has all the equipment they need. I just want to make sure the citizens in this community feel safe, because we're giving you what you need.
And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Prang.
Thank you. Thank you for being here in the additional presentation, given the delays that we've had. I will try to keep my comments specific to this contract. I think I still have lots of questions around data overall, but to clarify, this is a one-way data flow into the in-car cameras, which flow through the Axon system, and so therefore the data will be stored on evidence.com. But we're not sending anyone our data. We're receiving data from the state.
That's correct.
Okay. And so I guess the main question, well, I have two main questions on the agreement itself. In here, it talks about 4 personnel outside of our, I guess, police department or any kind of third party to access information. There is this CJIS security addendum certification that is signed. So I just would like to know who verifies that for us. So for instance, if our data, if we're receiving information from the state, it's coming through our cars, through the Axon cameras, it ends up on evidence.com, and somehow then a request is made to view that information, someone needs to sign a certification to be able to access it, correct? So do we have oversight of that within our police department to, I know, and thank you for sending the sample of the audit to see who's accessed information. So would it be seen there, but even before being able to audit who's accessed our data, are we checking to assure that Axon personnel or anyone else has signed the certifications if they have access to our data?
There might be three. The examples that you gave, first and foremost, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is who oversees all of that credentialing. I think that was the first part of that. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation oversees the credentialing of who gets certified to be a law enforcement agency or have that the ability to run a license plate or run somebody.
What I'm asking about more is like once the data has been received by us and then it flows through our cameras and then it goes into evidence.com, then we get into that area of it's our data. Even though it didn't really originate with us maybe, but it's come through the system and now it's sitting on Axon's system. And so there has to be, would it be CBI's responsibility or the police department's?
We would release that. I'm trying to think of a scenario where Littleton Police Department is looking for a vehicle that may have been used in a burglary that may have gone through Englewood as well. They would reach out to us to get that information.
Okay. So even prior to someone asking for that information, though, in order to have access to the system, someone has to sign this certification that they're allowed
through CBI.
Through CBI.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Thank
Great.
you. It's a lot of layers. I just want to make sure because we did talk very openly about the fact that once data flows through us, then I think it's considered our data. And so I've seen where systems like Axon say it's not our responsibility because it's your data. But as long as CBI is doing their part to make sure that these certifications are signed, then I have more of a level of assurance that the right people are allowed to access the data if they are allowed to access it. Okay.
Great.
And then, so to a point that was made earlier in public comment regarding the renewal of this agreement, is there anything that prohibits us from taking that automatic renewal every year up to 5 years down to just an annual renewal with council approval?
I understand. I might defer to the city attorney about the actual contract.
Okay.
I think due to Tabor, we're not allowed to have automatic renewals, but go ahead, City Attorney Niles.
Well, we can have automatic renewals. However, Tabor allows us to terminate multi-year contracts at the end of each year. So while we don't have to bring them to council every year, if they have a multi-year provision, we can still terminate for non-appropriation.
And I think if there were an issue with something, I don't think we would wait till the end of the year to bring that to your attention. We would want that to be done immediately. We haven't had any issues like that, but I
think that's maybe not necessarily, at least where my mindset sits with asking that question. It is more that this is kind of an evolving conversation, and clearly council has become a little more informed, as we should be, on all of the considerations around, I think, especially data and data privacy. And so my concern would be to have the ability to do that review each year, to just take a look at it again with where we're at that point in time. I hope that at some point we get to a point where we don't have to have that level of scrutiny, but I think right now it's warranted. And so did I hear City Attorney correctly that we don't have to do 5 years worth of renewals? We can, there's nothing that prohibits this contract or the renewal of this contract coming before council in a timely fashion each year to just touch base and say, here's where we're at in the conversation, here's where our understanding is, and we continue to be comfortable with this. I think that's a reasonable ask.
Yes, city staff could certainly bring it to city council, kind of a touch base or a status report to see if city council wished to take action to terminate early.
Okay. So would that require a change to the language in the contract, or? Because it does reference an automatic renewal for up to 5 years.
Let me double check, but I think we would have the authority to do that without a contract amendment, but I'll review the contract really quick while I'm sitting here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Prang.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead, Member Russell. I
a
was going to
quick question
say, I
with
wanted
that.
to read one other thing, but yes, go ahead while I'm reading
So,
it.
I mean, isn't that understood? Even though we enter into a multi-year contract, it does come back every year for approval, but a lot of times it probably just goes on consent agenda. And so maybe that's something that we should not put on consent agenda.
That was where I was leaning with this. Anything that has to do with data sharing or surveillance is something that that we review 90 days prior to the renewal of the contract as a process.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, City Attorney Niles.
So I double checked the provision, the termination provision, section 6 of the contract. It does state that it will automatically renew unless 60 days prior we notify them of our intent of non-renewal. Generally, city practices, when there's an automatic renewal provision, though, we don't bring it back to council to weigh in. Generally, staff usually takes that on, monitors it. Procurement schedules the automatic renewal, reaches out to staff, notifies them of the dates of automatic renewal or the deadline to notify of termination. And usually that's a staff decision. So if that's something that council wants to be a part of, though, we can certainly bring it to council for that discussion at that time. It's just not our standard practice currently.
Go ahead, Member Russell, if you want to add to that.
So is that something we should flag for 90 days before, so we have time if we're going to change it to give notification?
Yes, and I'm happy to reach out to procurement and let them know to add that in. They've implemented called Contract Lifecycle Management, a CLM program that they input all of those deadlines, and I will request that they input a 90-day deadline to bring it to council before automatic renewal.
So that does not require an amendment of the contract?
No, that would just be an internal process.
Okay.
So city council could still submit the notice of non-renewal. So it would be staff just inputting it into our system to bring it to city council to consider whether or not to allow the automatic renewal.
Anything else, Member Russell? No. Any further questions from members of council? All right. Trying to see if there's anything else that I had, but that conversation may have covered it. All right. I don't see anything else. So with that, everyone, in order to get to comment, can I get a motion to approve 11A1?
Can I ask a point
Sure.
of clarification?
Yeah.
Where do we put in writing somewhere the internal process language to assure that we're abiding by that? Do we need to amend the approval, or?
Well, honestly, well, go ahead, City Attorney Niles.
I'm drafting an email to procurement with a CC to these 4 officers to have them all put it on their calendar to make sure it comes back to council 90 days before automatic renewal. But if you'd like to include something else to formalize that, certainly no objection on our part if you wish to formalize it.
Do you mind if I just ask, because I'm rather go down this route, can we just make an amendment to the contract to just require an annual renewal for this?
We can, however, that probably requires us to go back to CBI.
I think what you could amend, though, is a check-in from police to council that doesn't impact the CBI.
In the approval ordinance, we could just internally amend the ordinance approving the IGA to require that.
Right.
Instead of amending the contract to do that.
Yeah, That would be more what I would like to see. Okay. There's still no motion. Member Prank, do you have anything else on that? All right, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
I was just wondering if this would be something worth passing a resolution on or putting in a policy somewhere that anything data sharing related would automatically come back to council. I think we should do something like that.
Outside of this.
Yeah. Not related to this agenda.
Correct. Not specific to this, but overall.
And Mayor, can I just ask a
Yes, sir.
clarifying question? So this would just be a kind of review of how things are working, or an update from the department on the status of the contract? Is that because to remember City Attorney Niles' point, yeah, making this annual would require this. We would have to go back to CBI, but we could absolutely put in language that says that you are asking the police department to come annually and report on how the contract is working,
Yep.
any data that you might want with the report like that.
But basically what was mentioned during public comment. The outcomes, how effective was this program over the course of the 1 year? If we have any information that's being shared outside, any Englewood information that's being shared outside, but I don't think that really applies to this specific IGA. I think that would be a good place to start, and then have it obviously come in front of us 90 days prior to the contract start date. Go ahead, Member Bray.
I guess I was just going to recommend that we have that conversation separately, and that's part of our standards around data and surveillance that we put into place. I would be happy tonight if at least just in the resolution part of it that we get, is it resolution? Am I saying that correctly? That we get it, well, this is an ordinance.
Well, I was going to say, there's still a second reading on this item.
Okay. So just within the internal process being referenced outside of the contract language itself. I'm satisfied with the internal process that's been suggested. I think that satisfies, the point that I was making, that this is an evolving conversation. I don't feel the need to necessarily mess with the contract itself right now, because I feel comfortable that for now it seems that it's a one-way issue, and I understand where the data is flowing, but just to get that additional internal to the city process in place.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Member Pring. All right. That sounds good. Go ahead, Member Bethel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with this IGA, I don't think that this is indicative of our larger conversation on data sharing. That this is a specific tool for our police department that handles a very specific trade of information or flowing of information, which is our police see a license plate and they check that license plate to see if the vehicle is stolen. We're not sharing our citizens' data, and we're not compromising our privacy. I've heard a lot of very strong opinions from our citizens and from my constituents, and I will reflect that in the larger data sharing agreement or conversation, but I don't think that that issue is this issue.
Thank you, Member Bethel. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much for the dialogue, members of council. With that, can I get a motion to approve CB 24?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Any further comments? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this agreement. I think the thing that I like about it is it's specific to information that is on a hot list. We're not collecting data on every car that goes by with these cameras. And so I think this is the way we want to use police power, is to use it to find the people that that are problematic in the community, and not use it to collect and store data on other people. So bring this as a comparison to any other agreements we have with or any other camera programs that we have. I think this provides a good baseline of something that's worth supporting, but maybe a good tool to evaluate others with as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll chime in as well. So I will be supporting this, but that's in lieu of the fact, or in addition to the larger conversation that we will be having as a council regarding the surveillance and cameras that are in place today. One of the items that I had for my mayor's choice tonight was to ask council when they would like to have that large discussion about the individual contracts and that type of thing. So doesn't mean that we are moving forward as is with the current surveillance in place, but that additional discussion should be happening here in the near future for the public as well for members of the council. So, but I will be approving the ID tonight. Member Russell?
Thank you. I too will be approving the IGA tonight, and I do appreciate the police, and thank you for all that you do, and just pray that you will continue to be keeping us all safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Russell. And also thank you very much to members of the public for being so engaged on this issue. With that, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Prang,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Ward, and Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5
All right.
ayes.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief, for the conversation, and members of the police department as well. All right, everyone, we're moving on to DB 29. This is the Uniform Hearings Code. We have City Attorney Tamara Niles. You're on a lot of items tonight. I'm not sure if you're just going to make home up here.
As you recall, I told you I took the holiday break to develop legislation, and so this is the product
really a break?
of all of that work over the course of the end of December and the early January. Very productive time in my office. As you recall, I presented on this March 2nd in study session to discuss a proposed uniform hearing code to provide clarity and consistency to hearing officers, city staff, and to those that are seeking to have hearings under municipal code. Currently, our codes are all over the place, scattered throughout many hundreds of pages, and this proposes to bring it all together in one consistent, hopefully easy to follow and understand process. We had some long discussion on it and some really good direction. It resulted in 2 changes to the proposed municipal code sections, which require that all orders after a hearing be reduced to writing, which was a suggestion by Councilmember Ward, and to incorporate state statute and Supreme Court guidance regarding indigency to provide a standard so that people don't have to pay any of the fees and costs that may otherwise apply if they truly can't afford it, because our goal isn't to prohibit anyone from availing themselves of these city processes. So the state issues very detailed guidance on what indigency means and who qualifies for indigency exceptions to pay any costs or other fees. And so we've incorporated that by reference into the proposed code. Of course, that was a suggestion by Councilmember Prang. The rest of the PowerPoint is exactly the same as it was presented 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if you want me to go through the same PowerPoint, or I'm seeing one head, I'm a couple head, no. I'm happy to go through the same presentation, but there really wasn't any other changes.
Thank you very much. City Attorney Niles, are there anything specific that members of council would like our city attorney to go through again, or any questions? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. One of them is on the takings. We wouldn't actually take someone's property, would we?
No. So that, I think what you're referring to is the process of eminent domain, which is an actual, if the city is taking somebody's property, for example, if we have a public improvement project and we need somebody's property, that has to go through the eminent domain process, which is a legal proceeding in district court, which this does not at all apply to. This would apply if somebody else claims that we improperly took their property, such as perhaps we cleaned up somebody's property that we said was a nuisance, and we said that we hauled off trash and disposed of it, and they claimed it was valuable piece of property could potentially support a takings claim.
Okay, so I guess it's like 15-5-1, vested rights and takings determination. Is that what you were talking about?
Let me grab my, I didn't bring up the entire code.
Okay, okay.
The second time tonight we made her walk.
Get her stuff.
It's welcome. Normally I just sit. We didn't make any substantive changes to that section. That's why I'm reviewing that. Yes, if it's, those apply to if someone claims that we effectuated a taking of their property, but it wouldn't be a wholesale, we are taking your house, bulldozing it down and using it for public purposes. If they say, it could apply, let's say, to a road improvement project on a right of way. This, not for the city, but my last city, we had an issue like that. Where they said, well, you actually took part of my property. And the argument was, did it fall within the street easement? Or did we expand the street easement into their property? And so it would apply in circumstances like that.
Okay, so would it apply to civil forfeitures?
No, not. It could apply if someone claimed that in practice we effectuated a civil forfeiture without going to district court to do so. Potentially could apply there. But no, it generally wouldn't be a civil forfeiture proceeding at all. It would be that we did something that we thought we already had the right to do, and they disagreed.
Okay.
They also could potentially just sue us in district court or federal court, depending on what the claim is.
So, okay, so, and this could be different than like chronic nuisance, or does this impact the chronic nuisance issues as well, these hearings?
Potentially, in that if a chronic nuisance ordinance is adopted, then people could challenge whether or not a chronic nuisance exists through this civil process. It also could be a criminal process. Let's say we've charged someone as a chronic nuisance and we've filed some sort of criminal charges in municipal court. Then that would all be decided in municipal court. That wouldn't follow this process. This is an administrative process, not a criminal one.
Okay.
So some nuance there.
Right.
Now, if someone wanted to claim that they challenge the civil determination that we made that it is a chronic nuisance property, then potentially they could use this process through a hearing officer, where a hearing officer would weigh the prior violations and determine, does it qualify as a chronic nuisance under our code? That could be an administrative process that follows these new code sections.
Okay, so I don't know if this applies, but House Bill 26-1250, I don't know if you're aware of that, procedures related to civil asset forfeiture. This bill will clarify an existing requirement for criminal conviction for an owner as a prerequisite to any nuisance abatement or forfeiture procedure.
So this isn't an asset forfeiture. In fact, the only time I know of that we've considered allowing something like that would be for drag racing, where we discussed whether we could forfeit vehicles. But so this is not an asset forfeiture in any way. A hearing officer wouldn't be there deciding, does the city get title to your property or not? That doesn't apply to that. But I will look up that House bill and read it word to word to make sure it's not impacted here.
Okay.
This is a first reading, so if this is adopted on first reading, if my analysis changes before second reading, I will raise it at the next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, any further questions from members of council? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve 11A2?
Move to approve 11A2.
Thank you, Member Praying. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Any further comments? Go ahead, Member Russell.
I do have some concerns about this. And I mean, I have a lot of stuff written in here, but so I think what I want to do, I'm probably not going to support it tonight, mainly because don't want it to come forward on consent agenda. And then I'll see if I need answers to any of these questions before the next time.
I appreciate that, Member Russell.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Nay.
Member Ward. Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes, 1 nay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. City Attorney Niles, you're up for the next one as well. This is approval on second reading of Council Bill 18, ordinance authorizing administrative fine for violations of business license.
Yes, this was second reading that was adopted unanimously on first reading, but Councilmember Russell had requested that it not be on consent agenda. Just a reminder, this would impose or allow staff to impose a $100 fine for violations of any conditions of a business license if we don't already have a fee set for those violations. So I would welcome any questions you may have.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, City Attorney. Any further questions? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. So, and my concern for this one is really the $100 fee. There are fees for most of these things that are far in excess of the $100 fine. And if the vast majority of these are operating without a license, so remind me, what is the current process if they don't have a license right now?
I send them a harshly worded letter, tell them to get a license.
Does it usually work, or?
I hope so. That's it. We don't have a stick at all. A harshly worded letter is very easy to ignore.
Well, so if it requires a business license to operate a business in the city, if they don't have a license, shouldn't they get a ticket and have to go to court?
They can. That is not our current process, except in the most extreme circumstances. In fact, I can't think of one example when we have sought to prosecute them in municipal court, but that could be an option, yes. The purpose of this $100 fee or fine is to say, stop doing this. Here's a $100 fine. You pay it, you fix it. We're good, because our goal isn't to fine anybody. It's not to prosecute anyone. It's to secure compliance. And so we're hoping that the fact that there is now a fine potentially, that it will encourage people to comply.
So if this passes and it doesn't work, then what's the next step?
Well, we can always consider prosecution. That is on the table now, but it just seems like for a business license, a criminal prosecution seems, it doesn't seem to align. We also can revoke the license. We have written in there that it's escalating. So it goes up by $100 for each additional offense within the last 2 years. But I think if we go for a year, 2 years, and we don't think that fine is enough to encourage compliance, I'm certainly not afraid to come back to council and request you consider more.
So how much does it cost to get a business license in the city?
I think it depends on which license it is. And city council sets those fees in your fee schedule. That's your annual council item.
But is it generally more than $100?
I believe so, yes. For example, I think the short-term rental license is quite a bit more than that. I can pull up the fee schedule and tell you.
Well, I guess what I'm asking, short-term rental licenses, we're not allowing them to operate in the city without a license, are we?
No. And in fact, you've already set some pretty hefty fine amounts for violations of the short-term rental license. So that's not one that would be subject to the $100 fine. This would only apply to licenses that don't currently have any sort of fine at all for violations, like Trash pickup. That's one that we get a lot. Contractors, one we face a lot. People that start construction way too early in the morning, or people that pick up trash and people hear beeping in neighborhoods in what feels like to them in the middle of the night, but maybe 6 a.m. Both of those are violations that have been repeatedly brought to City Council and have been somewhat of the impetus for this item.
Okay, so even when you send, let's say trash companies, when you send them a harshly worded letter, do they generally comply or not necessarily?
I'm not the one that usually sends that. It's either the licensing officer, which is generally based in finance. I know we've seen some on the contractor licensing that community development was involved in, and that have been brought to City Council a couple of times, both in email and I believe in public comment. And in those instances, the community development staff went out, spoke to the contractor. They were assured it wouldn't happen again. And then maybe a couple months later, we hear it happened again. And so I think I receive those same emails that you receive from valued constituents complaining about valid issues. And as city staff, it's frustrating that we don't have any tools to really address their concern and really to enforce this area of law. So that's our purpose in bringing this.
Okay, so we already know right now that it's 40 to 60 violation notices per year. So if this passes, which I'm sure it will, so a year from now, we could look at this and see if those numbers have changed.
Yes, and some of those, we may send violation notices, but there may not be violations. For example, maybe a licensed auctioneer ceased operations, but they didn't renew their license, but we didn't know they stopped operations in Englewood. So we may send them a notice of violation. They respond and say, okay, we moved to Florida, in which case we wouldn't impose the $100 fine because there was no violation. But yes, I would be happy to, a year from now, set this for a council review and let you know how it went.
Okay. I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Any further questions? Member Bethel.
I'm sure this is in here somewhere. With what frequency can we apply these fees, right? What timetable can you move from one violation to the next if you don't hear a response back? You said that the fee schedule increases by $100 per each subsequent violation. How quickly does that progress?
I'm not sure. I'll tell you what I think you're asking. I'll tell you an answer, but you tell me if I'm wrong because I'm not 100% sure. So each day a violation persists could be a separate violation. But on the case of maybe a contractor working too early in the morning, generally upon notification, they assure us that it stopped. So I think the frequency could really vary depending on if the contractor, if it truly was a mistake, I would hope it wouldn't be repeated. But if somebody maybe has a more nefarious motive and they don't care what our code says, they're going to pick up trash whenever they want, then I think they could see much higher amounts. So as staff, I'm not really sure how much a year from now, I'm not sure how much we may see imposed and collected on this. But again, we're hoping for compliance. We're not hoping to make any money on this.
That answers my question. Thank you.
All right. Anything else from council? All right. Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve 11B1?
Motion to approve 11B1.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Prang. Any further comments? Go ahead, Member Russell.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm a very black and white person. We have laws in the city. I think we need to enforce our laws. And I think if we started enforcing our laws, we wouldn't have this many people violating them. And I'm going to vote no because I think we already have a process and we're not using this. If we're not going to enforce the laws, why do we have laws on the books? That's my question. And I've been here 10 years. we've been trying to educate the people forever. Well, at least for the 10 years I've been on, and it doesn't work. But I guarantee you that enforcement would work. So anyway, I appreciate the work you're doing, and so we'll see in a year, right?
I wrote it in my notebook to bring it back to you a year from now.
All
so
right.
I will schedule it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Bethel?
Yeah, I want to say that I will be supporting this because the current enforcement that we have, I think, is black and white, and there's not always a call for just black and white, right? If someone violates their licensing or say, they pick up their trash too early, for us to just say, okay, you violated that, your business agreement, your license is revoked. I think that would leave us as an area that is unfriendly to do business in. It might also remove us of some of our trash carriers, which would create an potentially a monopolistic environment for trash carriers. That's just one, theoretical path that it could go in. But I do think that this is an area that calls for shades of gray. Member Russell, I appreciate that you're black and white, and I like that mentality. And I agree that we need to have firmer enforcement on our laws. But in this sense, I think that there is a level of enforcement that is appropriate.
Thank you, Member Bethel.
Can I respond?
Go
to
ahead,
that?
Member Russell.
Because I think you misunderstood. If I was talking about if they don't have a license, and according to the summary, the lion's share of all of is the city sends approximately 40 to 60 violation notices per year, the vast majority of which are operating without a required license or failure to renew. I'm not, a lot of times if they don't have a license, they don't know what the other rules are. And the law says you will have a license in the city of Englewood. So I'm not disagreeing with what you said about the example you used. I was just basing mine on most of the problems are people that don't have a license or they don't renew them.
Thank you, Member Russell.
Thank you.
All right. We have a first, we have a second, so I think we're good. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Prang,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Nay.
Member Ward, Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes, 1 nay.
City Attorney, thank you very much. Moving on to 11C1, we have Englewood Arts request that council consider a waiver of security fees for after-hours use of Hampton Hall. I think Deputy City Manager Tim Dodd, I think you're starting off this item.
Yeah, thank you. And then I'll have Mr. Bertolucci come up to the podium. So I'll just give Eric will just give a few intro items, then I'll turn it over to you. So just to let council know, this is a request that's coming directly from Englewood through staff. So it's not coming from staff. This stems from a requirement that we have that this building needs security at all times that it's open. There are times when Englewood Arts does have events that go outside of our typical business hours, which are different depending on meetings and the library's hours and things like that. As you know, facilities has been under my direction, the city manager's office, since the summer. Also, at the same time, the contract we have with security is being moved to the police department to better under Division Chief Chad Reed to better align with the work of the police department. So while I can't comment on how this may have been communicated in the past, it is an expectation that security be available when the building is open, regardless of the hours. The contract with Englewood Arts, and certainly if Englewood Arts and council want to change the contract at some point, we certainly could provide additional language. But the way it reads right now is that the term security is not in it. However, it does state that staffing of after-hours uses of the facility are the responsibility of Englewood Arts, and that they may contract with the city at a cost for those services. And so in January, I attached a council communication that Division Chief Chad Reed brought to you on January 21st. That was for a new contract with Allied Universal. That contract also does have a fee schedule that council adopted, which basically has hourly rates for Allied Universal outside of our regular coverage. And so I looked at the hours. They're considered premium hours per that contract. I did speak to a few folks in different departments who said there's no requirement that it be armed security. So I calculated based on premium unarmed security, which is $55 an hour. Mr. Bertolucci is requesting a fee waiver for 3 evenings. I included in your packet a chart that basically shows the total cost of each evening with a total cost of the city of $357.50. So if council does grant this fee waiver, security would still be needed, but it would be something we would have to, that's what we would have to absorb is $357.50.
Thank you very much. Deputy City Manager Dodd, Mr. Bertolucci, anything that you want to add?
Can you hear me now?
We can,
okay.
yes.
Thank you. I guess the first thing I'd like to ask is for a clarification from Tim, because he stated that we're requesting a fee waiver for 3 events, but you received our request memo, didn't you? Right. You have our request memo that we...
Yes, I apologize, Mr. Bertolucci, if I was incorrect, but in the letter from the chairman of your board, there were 3 dates, March 24th, May 22nd, and June 21st, and so that was how I calculated it.
Right, and our request is for waiving the security guard fees for all Hampton Hall uses sponsored by Englewood Arts.
Apologize if I missed that.
Along with the 3 rental uses scheduled prior to the date of this memo.
Great, well, I apologize if I missed that, but so the hourly fee then for any of this is $55 an hour. So for those 3, then the cost is $357. I don't think, Mr. Bertolucci, you sent me a calendar of all of the events, and so therefore I wouldn't have been able to calculate the entire cost.
Right, but there's an understanding that this request is for all Hampton Hall uses sponsored by Englewood Arts, right? So that would require, that includes not just these 3 events that are rental events. There are our uses like concerts and student recitals.
Okay.
And I think, thank you, Mr. Bertolucci, for that. So I would, to calculate the exact cost to the city, then I would need to know all those dates. I can't calculate that without them.
Okay, but I can give you an estimated number of hours for those, for the Englewood Arts sponsored events for between the date of this request and the end of the year.
Mayor, maybe it'd be best if you all just tell us what you would like. We received this request late last week, and we managed to get it on the agenda per eArts request, but we clearly have some additional analysis to do. But if you're comfortable, with this as is, we're glad to answer questions as we can.
Yeah.
We can also bring this back.
Yes, I don't think we're going to have the information we'll need in order to make a decision tonight, but I'll let other members of council weigh in on this. But I guess if you wouldn't mind me asking a question, Mr. Bertolucci, I'm trying to figure out how this differs this year versus previous years. Because I guess the contract for security was in place last year as well, in terms of providing security anytime Civic Center was open. So why is there a difference in 2025 or 2026 versus 2025?
Well, that's the great question. And
well, is this an unexpected cost?
So I do have a few prepared comments.
Okay, go ahead.
So if I can share those with you, and then I'm prepared to answer that question and any others. So I was surprised when the security fee was first mentioned in an email from a city employee several months ago. So this unexpected expense was never included in our Englewood Arts annual budget in any of the 25 years of our history. And if Englewood Arts is required to pay it, the result will be a negative impact on the financial stability of our organization and will diminish support for our education programs and concerts, both of which are the essence of our service to the community. Number two, we depend on Hampton Hall rental fees for the support of our programs. If we pass along the security fees to organizations and individuals wanting to use Hampton Hall, the result will surely be a decline in the use of the space, which is the exact opposite of our goal of maximizing its availability to the community. A fact of life for nonprofit organizations is that money comes, money goes. And this year, through no fault of our own, more is going than coming. The security fee mandate will surely harm our ability to provide value and services to the community. And finally, we were pleased to present our annual report to you last month. We appreciate the unique relationship we enjoy with the city of Englewood, and we were not anticipating the pleasure of meeting with you again so soon. However, here I am requesting another act of generosity from you. So with that, I'll be happy to do my best to answer your questions.
Actually, I think you answered it, Mr. Bertolucci. It doesn't sound like this is a cost that you have been absorbing in previous years. This is a new fee to you.
That's true. Okay. And I'll just say it's the general knowledge that when you have agreements, there will be differences of opinions about various passages in the agreement.
Okay.
And when this surfaced, also our difference of opinion surfaced.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Bertolucci. I have more questions, but if anybody else has a question before I start speaking too much, Member Bethel and then Member Pring.
I guess this is more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to say that I support what Englewood Arts is doing. I like the services you provide to our community. I think that engagement in the arts and music is critical to the brain development of young people. Young people and people of all ages, really. I still wish that I played the piano better and well learned. I think that we all can. But in order to move forward with this, I do need to see a budget and to understand what we're committing ourselves to. From that budget, then we can have a more informed discussion on what council would need to approve and where we need to take where the funds would come from. So I just want to encourage that process. It will probably have to revisit the conversation, but I want you to know that I'm encouraging that from a place of support.
We're happy to provide any information that you request, and we're eager to move beyond this issue because it's the focus that we are using and the focus of the staff addressing this issue is taking us away from our main focus. So I was hoping that we'd have a resolution tonight, a decision from you. Also, Englewood Arts is prepared to accept whatever your decision is because I believe your decision will be the correct one. So whatever it is, life is going to go on for us. There will be some impact. Life will go on for us because we have a mission that we are pursuing and have been for 25 years.
Member Pring?
Thank you. I appreciate you coming forward this evening and making the clarifications that you made, because it does appear that we received information that maybe was not complete. I echo Member Bethel's comments. I have been a big fan of the program over the years. I think that you do provide a vital service to the community. And I too also equally feel that, you know, contract language needs to be adhered to. And what it appears to me is that in the contract, there is language around these fees being covered by Englewood Arts. So I am a little bit confused as to how this feels or is perceived as an unanticipated expense, given the contract language itself. it sounds to me like we probably, and I think probably from what you've said as well, there's some maybe clarity that's needed in the language that's within the contract from both sides. So I think in addition to having a budget to review, maybe we need to revisit this language when we look at the contract again. And I guess I would add to Member Bethel's request, for me, if it were a limited amount of money for those 3 events, I probably would have been in a position to approve this on a one-time basis tonight because the risk is pretty low and the dollar amount is pretty low. But for me to feel comfortable even engaging the conversation for that fee to be waived overall into the future, I would need to see a budget that is an actual budget. So as much as I appreciate the information that we're given on kind of some of the numbers around the program in the annual presentation that's done, I don't feel like I've seen a budget that shows, revenues and expenses and different categories of expenses, etc. So that would help me have a better understanding of the financial intricacies of running this program and be able to then make an educated decision on whether we waive the security fees or not.
I appreciate your comments on that. And just to remind you that the uses of Hampton Hall, ours, the one sponsored by Englewood Arts, and the rental uses, it's a very fluid situation. So I don't believe you'll ever get the satisfactory information you're requesting, because it could be next week I will receive 3 requests for the use of Hampton Hall, and the information you will have been given before that won't be applicable to that. I can tell you that we'll have 40 to 50 hours of security needs between now and the end of the year.
Yeah. For me, the bigger piece is the actual budget and a true representation of the budget for Englewood Arts to be able to have a broader conversation and come back to revisit the contract language to make it workable for everyone. And I do think that's something that should and can be provided.
So are you asking for the Englewood Arts budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
A
Well,
detailed
I can
budget,
give you
not just this is how much money, was raised through events. And then I think in this last annual review, we had certain pieces of maybe like what one instructor cost the program per year, but we didn't have a breakdown of, administrative costs, what the program pays for, how many instructors, are there administrative overhead costs, and then a breakdown of the different types of revenue that comes in. That is what a budget is, and I would expect to see to be able to have an educated conversation around amending a contract for the use of a city space that our residents pay for.
Sure, I can give you the 2025 budget.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You won't see anything in there.
Mr.
going
Bertolucci,
to-
I think Member Prang was clear in what she's expecting as part of the next step on this, Mr. Bertolucci. And we're not trying to be adversarial, but in order for us to be making a judgment on information that wasn't complete for us, I think we just need a complete picture. And that's all it is, Mr. Bertolucci. But Member Russell, I think you are looking to speak as well on what you need.
I am, and I agree with Councilmember Prang, and I appreciate all that you do here, and I think that we as a council need that information. I do have a question from city staff, though. Have we charged Englewood Arts in previous years for the security, or is this new this year?
Thank you. I was told by the previous department that oversaw facilities that requests have been made, but I don't have any documentation on that, so I can try to get that when this comes back.
Okay, I appreciate that, I think, and because have we changed the contract? If we've not been charged, has the contract changed? So I think that we need that information as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Just getting more information on this at all. It kind of seems like we're now treating it as like an intercompany, you know, intercompany swap between us and in Englewood Arts that we weren't doing previously. That's what it sounds like to me based on what I'm hearing. But again, Mr. Bertolucci, we won't be able to vote on this tonight. I'm going to ask for a motion to, what is it? Motion to table on this item. So let me ask for that, and then I'll make a final comment on this. So can I get a motion to table this item to date uncertain?
I'd like to move to table, I believe this is 11C.
To date uncertain?
11CI to a date uncertain.
Perfect.
C1.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Russell. Any further comments? I'll just jump in. So again, Mr. Bertolucci, this is not us trying to be adversarial on this item. We just need more information on exactly how much we're being asked for. We seem to have additional questions on why this security expense wasn't passed through to you in the past or to Englewood Arts in general. And I guess the other question that I happen to have is I believe we're providing security during these hours, regardless of whether or not Hampton Hall is in use. Maybe not the June 21st, which seems to fall on a Sunday. But those are the type of questions that I happen to have. Hopefully we could get this information back to us pretty quickly in order for this to be resolved. So unfortunately, Mr. Bertolucci, I will have to speak again at some time once the information is gathered. So I appreciate your, with that, actually we haven't voted on it. So with that, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward. Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
All right. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time
you.
tonight, Mr. Bertolucci. All right, moving on to 11C2, we have the appointment of 2 ETAC members. City Attorney Niles, is there anything that you want to add on this, or should I just pick it up?
Mayor, I would just add that we understand ETAC discussed this appointment at its last meeting, and they requested that their alternate be elevated to a regular voting member in lieu of 2 new voting members applied. And then I understand from talking to you that someone that we had proposed to appoint as a full voting member now says they can't serve, at least not yet. So it appears that this resolution requires an amendment to remove the person that said they can no longer serve and perhaps to elevate the alternate.
That is correct. Thank you very much for that overview, Member Niles. The one thing that I do want to add is that we changed our board and commission policies. That's what it was that triggered this, right? And that was last month in February?
Yes, it was an ordinance amending municipal code that authorized council to appoint 2 additional members. to
Correct. And so we wanted to use the opportunity for that, but as City Attorney Niles kind of alluded to, I didn't do my due diligence. I wasn't clear with when reaching out to Mayor Pro Tem whether or not there was a alternate member already on ETAC, and there does seem to be one. So I did communicate with Michael King. He unfortunately is not able to make the June meeting, which at that point he basically stated, since you guys are only meeting quarterly, I'll just go ahead and reapply when that time when the schedule aligns. So you may be able to do that here in May or maybe sometime later on in the year. So with that, I'm going to be asking that that we elevate the current alternate. I believe it's Madeline Pike, if I remember correctly. Yes, Madeline Pike to a full member. Dan, and I'm not going to try to say his last name, to stay as a regular member as well, but to remove Michael King. So that's what I'm looking to do with ETAC here. But any further questions on the item in front of us? No? All right, with that, can I get a motion to amend 11C2 to elevate Madeline Pike as a regular member in place of Michael King?
I move to approve, was it 11C2? And replace Michael King with Madeline Pike.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Prang. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Ward. And Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Apologies to the ETAC board and to Ms. Pike on my oversight. Glad we had a resolution on this, but I'll do a better job in the future in this type of situation. By making sure I speak to the liaison prior to nominating two members. All right, moving on to mayor's choice. We'll start with the first one, but they're basically both grants. So the first one is permission to apply for the 2026 open space grant. I know we have members of Parks and Rec and Library and Golf here with us. But is anybody any concerns about applying for the open space grant for Bellevue Park? Go ahead.
I have some concerns. We have $41.5 million general obligation bond that has been passed, and we're not getting, we have a certain amount of time limit to get that all done. Why do we need another $600,000? So.
Thank you, Member Russell. We have Director of Parks and Rec and Golf and Library in Underhill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Christine Underhill, Director of Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf. Good question. The playground is the item that we're trying to replace at Bellevue Park. That was not included in the bond projects. You know, originally we had asked for $50 million. We reduced that back and shrank the scope of many of our projects. And the east side of Bellevue Park was part of that shrinkage. And so we're looking at grants, a way to continue to improve all of our parks. And this mirrors what we're doing with the farm and other improvements as part of the bond. And so ultimately, this renovation of the east side most likely will be 2 or 3 phases to really update the east side of Bellevue Park. It's not part of the bond funding. The matching of the grant is not part of the bond funding either. So we're trying to do all these projects at once. And get it all done while we have contractors on site. We actually think we may save some money on the construction piece of it because we have all these other projects happening in our city, and we know it's contractors are seeing what we're doing overall.
If we do this, do we have enough staff to make sure we don't miss any of the deadlines on the GO bond money?
Great question, and I'd say yes, we do. We're really relying on our contractors, the designers that are putting these parks together for us, as well as the construction teams. And there's plenty of contractors out there looking for jobs, and so I don't have concerns that we cannot get this done.
And will this $600,000 pay for everything that needs to be done, or does the city need to come up with more money?
Another good question. And no, the city will not have to come up with additional funds. We utilize matching grant funds out of our Arapahoe County open space that we get from the quarter-cent sales tax. And so ultimately, it's really open space funding that is paying for this renovation of the east side of Bellevue Park.
Okay, thank you for the answers to your questions.
All right. Anything else for members of council? If not, any objection to applying for just the grant at this point? If we're just applying for the grant. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Director. Moving on to the 2026 DOLA Housing Planning Grant. Again, this is just another grant that we would be applying for. I don't think there's anything specific here that we need to call out, but any objection to applying for the grant for DOLA? All right, don't see anything there. All right, I'll just finish up with council members' choice. What did I do with my list? Well, actually, so I kind of brought it up earlier with the data surveillance IGA or the IGA with the CBI. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up was just the fact that there's a larger discussion that still needs to be had with surveillance and data collection that we're doing across the city, and potentially any concerns that we happen to have with current contracts we have in place. We received a lot of information last Monday night, but I think at some point we had to put it to action. But I'm wondering whether or not we're looking to do something here in April, or to me, it felt more likely that we should be doing it in May. But I'm also wondering from members of council whether or not that's enough time for you to, bring up any additional concerns that you may happen to have with current contracts or how we're tracking some of the information, regardless of whether it's Block or Axon or any of the other systems that we're currently using. So are we ready to have that discussion in May, or put something on the calendar for May and just see if we're ready at that point? Should we try to do that for members of council? Go ahead, Member Frank.
I think May is a fine idea. And I just would ask or encourage members of council to kind of really get your head around what our goals are.
Yeah.
For me, I know right now just setting some kind of statement or standard around data protection and surveillance and what our expectations from council are around that would be a goal. I probably want to thank the police department for responding to my council request. I want to sit with that information a little bit more, but I think the last time that we had the broader conversation, I was happy that we did it, and I was the one that pushed to make it a bigger conversation, but then it became a really big conversation, and I think some of us got lost in the weeds of which system we were talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So as much as we can, if we can have dedicated conversations about the particular pieces and then build to that greater conversation of what our standards and protocols or, wishes as a council would be around, that would be my preference of how to proceed.
Yeah, and actually, Member Praying, you brought up a good point. Just the fact that there's a ton of council requests out there with a lot of different information, and just pinpointing exactly where we want to start with this. Honestly, I think in terms of to make the May meeting more productive, like you said, just coming in with specifically what it is that we're looking to achieve, or at least you personally, what you're looking to achieve in advance of that May meeting would be beneficial for staff, the police department, part of that. So I appreciate you bringing up your council request because apparently I have a lot of pages to leaf through based off of that response. So we just as a train of thought, anything that is surfacing up for you in terms of a priority, maybe we should be using this time during council members' choice to bring up where you want that May discussion to potentially go. I believe, like if you notice something within the council request that you're having an issue with a vendor or just questions that come up with that, highlight that during council member choice so we can start tracking it and make sure that the May meeting is a little bit more productive. So, just a thought there. Any thoughts on that? Are we good with trying to schedule something in May and then going from there? It'd be a study session. Member Russell, go ahead.
I agree with that, and I think probably answers to the council request that we had from public comment tonight would be helpful around that also.
Yep.
Thank you.
Agreed. Anything else on that item? I still have a couple other things, but go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I know Mr. Crabtree brought up his request for the locations of those cameras to be made publicly available, and I'm inclined to do that, but I don't know if they're legal, I don't know if there are legal concerns around that or if that's a broader council discussion as well, but I would be inclined to just put in that council request, but I'm afraid I'm missing something if we were to release that. Is that something council's interested in?
Well, I was going to say, it was a council request that Member Russell brought up, but I would ask City Attorney Niles if there is any reason why we can't release that information. I would obviously defer to the city attorney on that type of thing, but go ahead.
Could you repeat what you were too far away from the microphone,
Sorry.
so I couldn't quite hear it.
Sorry, I was just asking, I guess, I missed a council member Russell did extend this council request already, but to release the locations of the flock cameras that we currently have.
I would want to coordinate with PD on that. We've had some internal discussions, and I'm not sure where they are. So I would like the opportunity to talk to them first.
Okay.
Okay, and then we could provide an update next Monday night based on.
And perhaps we would need a executive session to discuss it. Perhaps I don't know if there's legal concerns that we'd have to dig into.
But regardless, the council request has been captured, and so it's a good place to start. So we'll just wait for legal guidance on that. Yeah, please go ahead, Member Russell.
I would just like to make a comment. Those flock cameras or axon cameras or whatever they are, they're spying on every one of us. And every one of us has a right to know when our government is looking into what we're doing. It's not that we're using them. My issue is not that we're using them to figure out crime, but we're putting citizens, the lion's share of those camera people are us who are not committing any crimes. And that is problematic, and I believe it has to be open records. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I share your concerns, Member Russell, so, but just want to make sure that we're on legal footing, but I completely agree with what you're stating there.
Mayor Sierra.
Yes, go ahead, Member Bethel. Thanks for.
In the immediate future, there is a website that I frequent called dflock.org that tracks the location of flock cameras. It is not complete, but it does include many flock cameras that are not City of Englewood property or city property at all. One of Flock's largest clients is the HOA community, and this website does its best to track those locations as well.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. All right, second item, moving on from the flock camera or just data surveillance conversation, council requests. So I wanted to talk about just the current process that we have for council requests. And thank you very much to Member Prank for bringing it to my attention, as well as City Manager Lewis. But normally we ask for council requests here on the dais as part of council members' choice, after public comment, but also sometimes during study session items. And so we currently have a tracker. It's usually within the Friday report. There's a council tracker in there, or a council request tracker. And it seems that we should be adding an extra field as part of this process, because there's times where council requests don't get answered in the expectation of that council member. And so, for instance, tonight, Member Russell, the 5 that were brought up, just understanding the urgency of these, to me, actually, I think all 5 of these will probably be answered by the end of the week, preferably, or as quick as possible. We don't want to wait on an item. We don't want to wait for this data surveillance item coming up in May. You would prefer to have these in a timely fashion, I would think, in these cases. So I guess what I'm saying here is that, moving forward, City Manager Lewis, I think we probably need to be a little bit clearer, potentially. Actually, no, this is what we'll do. We'll just make sure that we capture that additional line item. And if we can go into the Friday tracker every single week and just make sure that, actually, I don't like that now that I'm saying it out loud. I don't like that process. I think we should just be clear on how quickly we want this item. That's what we need to do. The items that come up during study session normally do get captured again for the next time that it come on the study session, just as an FYI. But if we need that information earlier, then we probably just need to specify that. But anytime that we are asking for a council request, just ask for the urgency on this item, whether or not you need it by the end of the week or some other time frame. So I just want to make that clear. But Member Russell, do you have something to add on that?
So does that mean that if it's urgent, we just put, we have to put something, I mean, because like some of these things, we're going out to bid on some of the things on the traffic calming. I think that we need that council needs that information back if it's going to impact.
No, exactly. Like that one, because there's no study session that's really coming up on traffic calming in the near future,
right?
That I can think of. So yeah, that would be answered in a normal process where you'll get it in a week or two. For instance, what's tripped us up in the past, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the transparency, the 2 items that came up with the data collection this evening, Ms. Collins and Mr. Crabtree. If we had a surveillance item coming up, that information would be provided as part of the package in that discussion. But yeah, I was going to say but that would come up normally. Okay. Anytime we ask for information during a study session, during items, they normally get covered as part of that packet as well, or the next time that we cover it. So I think we just because some have slipped through the cracks, I think it's probably better that we just ask for the urgency on some of these items.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Those were 2 items, and the other 2 are just thank you to first off to staff for all the work that they put into the BELM delegation last week. It went great, Sean. You put a lot of time into this. Krista put a lot of time into this. The schools and the host families did their part. I'm surprised that everything went as well as it did. The kids had a great time. For the most part, they enjoyed just about every single activity. There's some had more events that were more favorable than others, but overall it went really well. So just everyone that was involved with the Belm delegation coming out last week, thank you very much for the work that you put into that. And also I want to thank staff as well for the traffic calming town hall that I had last week. Great turnout. Thank you very much to Victor and all of Public Works for putting the work into that as well. And to Communications for doing a great job getting the word out. The fact that Public Works used those signs to kind of traffic signs to kind of publicize it as well. I know at least one person that told me that they saw that and just said, hey, I was going to show up for this. So just thank you very much for all the work that went into that. So anyone else for council member's choice? Go ahead, member Pring.
Thank you. I just wanted to circle back around to the council request
Yeah,
thing
go ahead.
because I do think so. I just wanted to stress amongst council that we could do a better job of clarifying how and when we want the information. I don't always want to enter an official council request, and not everything requires that. So I think, if I'm asking a question for follow-up on something, I should be a little more specific, like, can I get this within this time frame? It can just come through an email, or, let's take some responsibility ourselves outside of like the standing official processes to, when we're asking questions, clarify when and how we would like to receive that information. Because sometimes the information isn't necessary. We might come back to a topic, but the question being asked isn't really kind of pertinent to that follow-up conversation that we're having. So I just think that we could do a better job along, to assist staff. And then also, if we're asking for something and staff knows, oh, this is coming back onto the agenda, a month from now, to let us know at that point so that we can have that information and it can inform the request that we're making. So that, and then I also wanted to, I forgot in our last meeting to give a quick shout out to our local shooting range in Englewood, the Shootist. I went and had a training there. I just had really good service. I had an excellent training by an ex-Marine who was very serious about the responsibilities of gun shooting. Just had a great experience there, and it's obviously a business that the 2 times that I've been there is hopping and doing well, and providing a service to the community that people really enjoy. So shout out to Shootist.
Yeah, thank you very much, member Pring. Anyone else for council member's choice? All right, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to continue on the council request item because I think I've got some questions as well. And I appreciate the clarification, and it would be helpful to have council kind of speak to the level of urgency. But I just want to, because you said, oh, I think we can answer the questions this week. I just want to say we absolutely cannot.
I was going to say, there's times, depending on how big the item is.
Right.
Like I'm thinking the 2 that came for surveillance tonight, like some of those are pretty heady, or some of the items are going to be going to require a little bit more information than others.
Right.
So you may not be able to get that by the end of the week, but I guess the point there is that there's still a level of urgency, even it can't be answered by the end of the week, I guess, in my example.
Right. Okay, great. And I mean, the 5 questions that they weren't actually questions, they're just statements like amend CB 24 to require council review. There were a number of things that were just requests for this contract and changes to that. So I guess on those, do you want staff's analysis on each one of these suggestions? Because none of them are questions.
So that item's coming up for second reading next time, or it's coming up for second reading.
Right.
So having some information on those questions, or whether or not we kind of got those answers already tonight as part of this, but just having those questions added as part of the packet for the first week of April would help. I guess the questions that Mr. Crabtree was asking probably does require a level of legal interpretation, whether we could release that information. I haven't seen the email come through yet, so I'm not sure if you said the Okay, yeah, so that's fine. But I do recall that there was just like some issues that may take a little bit more time to gather.
Right. Okay, thank you. And then have you all received the email from Mr. Phillipson?
Yes. We came from Krista this morning.
Okay. So that one was earlier today, not sent tonight.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of urgency on that one?
Well, I think there's a level of urgency on that one because it's a traffic calming that eventually will be going out to bid soon. Whether I don't know if I remember the timing on that, but we're already
Okay.
in March. But yes, there's some urgency.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder of the topic. Yes, we'll treat that one with the urgency. And then I think we should be able to address in the next, probably in this week, in terms of actions taken on the South Lincoln property. So we can get that. All right, that's helpful if we can kind of converse. And a lot of times what happens is when council members say, I'd like a request pursuant to what was brought up at public comment, we have to have a lot of back and forth with the council member about what it is exactly that they're wanting. So I will try to do that the day after the council meeting and get with the council member who requested that. So I appreciate that clarification. I also just will close with mentioning I was actually going to thank council for your participation, your involvement, your engagement in both the town hall and the public events that we had for the Belm delegation from our sister city. I think, there were several people that commented to me, wow, it's great that so many council members were at the traffic calming town hall. And the same was said about the events for the Belm delegation. I think that, your participation in those was helpful. I also just want to follow up and say we've got a lot of questions that came up at the town hall and subsequent emails on traffic calming, and we are working to address those. And if you wouldn't mind, there are oftentimes that we aren't copied. No one on staff is copied on some of those. So if you forward those to us, even if you want to anonymize them, that's fine. But if we can get the questions so that we can get answers back to you so you can respond to constituents, that's going to be helpful because a lot of times on this particular topic, staff isn't always seeing the questions. So the mayor has forwarded me some of those, but if anybody can do that, that'd be
them all
helpful.
to you? I'm pretty sure I did, but
You've forwarded a couple.
Okay.
There may be more, but
Okay.
so we are working on the follow-up on that. But again, just thank you for the support and the engagement. And it's not unnoticed by our residents or by staff for that matter. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Can I ask?
Yes,
a
go ahead,
question?
Member Russell.
So when staff responds to those emails by constituents, can city council see those responses? Because I think it will help us as well. So even, I mean, it may have been sent to one council member and then it gets forwarded to you, but all of council probably needs to see that information as well.
That's a great point, Member Russell. And to your point, you and Member Prang were copied on one of the resident emails. So I let you know information, but your point's well taken that probably all of council should receive that same information, even though they weren't copied. So I'll make a habit just to copy all council members if we're responding to a constituent who has copied one or more council members.
Right. And I think the other thing, especially on topics that are currently under works too, that may impact council decisions.
Right. Glad to do that.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, everyone, we are adjourned. It is about 9:30. We will see you all next week. Have a good evening, everyone.